Chapter 3702. The female cultivator who came in was wearing a snow-white palace dress that wrapped around her graceful and moving body. She was born with an exquisite and beautiful face that could be broken by the wind. Lin Feng was extremely surprised. What day was this? This lousy bookstore probably wouldn't even have a single customer a day. Why were there so many customers one after another? Moreover, the cultivation of these customers. They all seemed to be very powerful. This was what puzzled Lin Feng the most. Where's the owner? The woman in white looked at Lin Feng and asked. Lin Feng said indifferently. He went inside. Maybe he'll come out later. The woman nodded and found a place to sit down. Lin Feng continued to read his book. The atmosphere in the bookstore was extremely strange. Lin Feng, who was reading as if no one else was around. He sized up the woman in white in the bookstore with interest. The silent cultivator with a blade on his back, and the one-legged old man with an undying monkey. Cough, 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 cough. It wasn't until the sound of coughing was heard that this strange atmosphere was broken. Old Monster Yin walked out. He was too old, much older than the one-legged old man. His face was as pale as paper. His eyes were turbid, as if he had just recovered from a serious illness. Even if old Monster Yin had fallen to the ground and his soul had returned to the nine heavens, Lin Feng wouldn't doubt at all. You are that person, the woman in white said. I don't know what the fairy is talking about. I'm just an ordinary old man who lives in a bitter, cold place, struggling at death's door, waiting for death. Old Monster Yin said. We know who you are. Hand over that thing, and we won't make things difficult for you. The cultivator with a blade on his back said. His voice was extremely cold. What thing? This old man really doesn't know what you're talking about? The things this old man has the most here are these books. If you want, you can take these books away. Old Monster Yin continued. Every time he spoke, he would cough a few times. It seemed that his physical condition was indeed not ideal. The one-legged old man said gloomily, Don't play dumb with us. We have no grievances in the past, and we don't want to disturb your life. So you should cooperate with us obediently. If you refuse to cooperate with us, don't blame us for being ruthless. Old Monster Yin said, An honest man doesn't do underhanded things. This old man really doesn't know what you're talking about. If I knew, I would definitely tell you. Buzz. Right at this moment, the sound of the saber resonated through the void. The cultivator with the saber drew his saber and slashed at old Freak Yin. A dazzling saber light condensed. The chi wave formed by the saber aura directly split the counter in front of him into two halves. There were many bookshelves around it. They were all torn apart by the saber chi. That dazzling blade light. Falling from the sky, he slashed down at Old Monster Yin. Old Monster Yin put his palms together. Clang! His withered hand actually caught the saber light that was chopping down. However, Old Monster Yin was too old after all, and he was unable to completely block the power of the saber light. Although he caught the saber light with his hand, he was still forced back by the saber light. The saber light dissipated on its own. Old Monster Yin coughed even more violently. Lin Feng was really worried that Old Monster Yin would cough out his lungs. The cultivator with the saber sneered and said, Can an ordinary bookstore owner withstand my peerless saber? Since you don't know how to appreciate favors, then we can only suppress you first and then interrogate you about the whereabouts of that item. The one-legged old man sneered. Squeak! The undying monkey bared its fangs and brandished its claws, constantly roaring. It seemed incomparably irritable. The white-clothed female cultivator said, Let's do it. Boom! The three experts attacked at the same time, wanting to kill Old Monster Yin. The item is with my disciple. Old Monster Yin pointed at Lin Feng. The three of them were shocked. They all looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's face was full of black lines. He had actually been tricked by Old Monster Yin. This old thing. He looked like an old ghost. As expected, he was not a good person. Squeak! The undying monkey reacted the fastest and directly pounced at Lin Feng. Its sharp claws grabbed at Lin Feng. Stinking monkey, get the hell away from me. Lin Feng casually slapped out with his palm. In the void, a huge energy palm was condensed. Then, it slapped on the undying monkey's body. It directly slapped the undying monkey away. Shwa! At the same time, old monster Yin directly jumped into the void and left. This old thing is lying to us. Chase him. The faces of the three experts suddenly sank. Then, they quickly jumped into the void and left. They went to chase after old monster Yin. Not too stupid, Lin Feng curled his lips. He put away the books that old monster Yin gave him and then left old monster Yan's bookstore. After leaving old monster Yan's bookstore, Lin Feng returned to his residence. When Lin Feng returned, he found that the cursed doll had not returned. Lin Feng didn't know if the cursed doll would come back or not. This guy had been nagging, and his whereabouts were strange. Lin Feng was not worried about the cursed doll's safety. There were many ways to deal with the cursed doll. Very few people could threaten him. After going back, Lin Feng started reading all the books he had collected. He finally had a more systematic understanding of the Bitterhan state. Of course, Lin Feng was clear that his current understanding of the Bitterhan state was still only at a basic level. In a place like the Bitterhan state, there must be many secrets. However, these secrets, obviously, they would not be recorded in these ordinary books. Books that could record these secrets. They would not be sold outside. Late at night, Lin Feng entered a dream. He dreamed that he had arrived at the boundless ghost sand. Blood clouds, dark erosion, huge and unknown terrifying creatures. Terrifying existences appeared one after another. They were chasing after him. Lin Feng fled crazily. He wanted to avoid the pursuit of those terrifying creatures. However, over and over again, Lin Feng could not avoid the pursuit of those terrifying creatures. The situation, it was in danger. At this moment, a fire phoenix. It flew over from afar. That fire phoenix dispelled the darkness and quickly flew to Lin Feng's side. Then the fire phoenix let out a series of cries to Lin Feng. It seemed to be telling Lin Feng to sit on its back. Lin Feng did not dare to hesitate. He quickly flew over and grabbed the fire phoenix's back. Blood clouds, dark erosion, huge and unknown terrifying creatures, and other existences quickly chased after him. And the fire phoenix was very fast. It flew quickly above the endless ghost sand. In the end, the fire phoenix rushed into a huge abyss. The fire phoenix had just entered the abyss with Lin Feng. Those terrifying existences chased after them. But those terrifying existences stopped outside the abyss. They did not dare to cross the line. There seemed to be something in the abyss that made those terrifying existences fearful. Therefore, those terrifying existences. Chapter 3703. The fire phoenix carried Lin Feng and continued to fly towards the bottom of the abyss. Lin Feng was very puzzled. What was the origin of this fire phoenix? Where did it want to take him? Lin Feng really wanted to know. He didn't ask the fire phoenix. Later, perhaps he would be able to know everything. In the end, the fire phoenix brought Lin Feng to the depths of the underground world. In the depths of the underground world, Lin Feng saw a sea of fire. In the depths of the sea of fire, there seemed to be something distorting the void, but he couldn't see clearly what it was. Lin Feng was puzzled. The fire phoenix let out a loud and clear cry. Then, it spread its wings. It suddenly flapped its wings. Then, it quickly flew towards the sea of fire. The fire phoenix was extremely fast, like a bolt of lightning. It instantly rushed into the sea of fire. However, the mysterious thing in the depths of the sea of fire shook slightly. Terrifying flames swept over, enveloping Lin Feng and the fire phoenix. Lin Feng and the fire phoenix. In an instant, he was burned to ashes. The next moment, Lin Feng suddenly sat up from the bed. He was so shocked that he broke out in cold sweat. He actually had a dream, and he even had such a dream. This dream, what did it mean? Lin Feng got up and went to the window. At this moment, it was night. The silver moon was like a plate. The small town at night seemed very cold and deserted, because in a place like the Bitterhan province, some terrifying things would always happen at night. So, very few cultivators would come out at night. Why would I have such a dream? Lin Feng couldn't help but say to himself. Everything in the dream was vivid and lifelike. It was so real. But Lin Feng didn't know why he had such a strange dream. This made him puzzled. Lin Feng felt that the dream was definitely not simple. Perhaps there was something hidden in it that he didn't know. Or perhaps it wanted to give him some inspiration. Of course, this was only Lin Feng's guess. He paced around the room. In the end, Lin Feng took out the dozen or so books that old Monster Yin gave him. Dream. It didn't happen for no reason. There must be some reason. Only then would he dream. Ordinary people were like this. What about cultivators with strong willpower? Cultivators rarely dreamed. The number of times that Lin Feng dreamed could be counted on one hand. After thinking for a while, he felt that it might have something to do with what happened during the day. Or it had something to do with old Monster Yin. The three experts who appeared during the day were all very powerful. They were looking for old Monster Yin and seemed to want to ask him for something. Lin Feng didn't know what they wanted from old Yin. But Lin Feng was very clear about one thing. That was, old Monster Yan's item must be extremely important. Lin Feng looked at these books. He didn't see anything special from these books. But after thinking about it, he only got these books from old Monster Yin. He associated it with the dream he had that night. Was it related to these books? Lin Feng flicked his finger. A flame flew out. It landed on the book. The book immediately burned. In an instant, it turned into ashes. That's... Lin Feng saw something and revealed an extremely shocked expression. He hurriedly dug up the ashes left behind after the book was burned. Then, one thing. It appeared in Lin Feng's line of sight. That thing. It was actually a feather. The book burned. The feather didn't burn. Obviously, that feather was extremely extraordinary. Or else, it should have turned into ashes long ago. Lin Feng looked at the feather. That feather was a fiery red feather. It was still emitting a faint, scorching energy. This was the energy of the fire attribute. Could this be a phoenix feather? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He thought of the fire phoenix that appeared in his dream. The demon lord said, "That's right. This is indeed a phoenix feather." Lin Feng was shocked. Now, he could confirm that this was a phoenix feather. Then, the dream he had before should be related to the phoenix feather. Everything he had experienced in the dream could all be true. Lin Feng thought of a possibility and couldn't help but take a deep breath. If all of that was true, it would be too shocking. That place is in the endless ghost sand. Such a dangerous place. Even if that abyss really exists, who would dare to enter the endless ghost sand to search? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He had escaped from the endless ghost sand. Therefore, he was very clear about how terrifying the endless ghost sand was. It was a forbidden zone that devoured life. Entering the endless ghost sand, it was simply courting death. Now that he thought of the blood clouds that appeared in the endless ghost sand, the corrosion of darkness, and that huge and unknown terrifying creature, Lin Feng still had a lingering fear in his heart. The cursed doll entered the endless ghost sand to search for something. Could it be that that fellow is also searching for the abyss that I saw in my dream? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. The cursed doll knew a lot of secrets and also knew a lot of treasure lands. Lin Feng and the cursed doll were already very familiar with each other. He knew how many secrets the cursed doll was hiding in its heart. However, the cursed doll was quite stingy. It didn't want to share the secrets in its heart with others. The next day, 3 waves of cultivators came to the town. The first wave of cultivators was a group of cultivators in gray robes. Each of them had a deep and powerful aura, and each of them carried a saber on their back. The second wave of cultivators was a group of people with disabilities. They also had a terrifying aura. The third wave of cultivators was a group of young women. Each of them was as beautiful as fairies. Their appearance in the town caused quite a stir. People from the godly Saber sect, Remnant Immortal Valley, and 100 Immortal Pavilion. These people are from 3 of the 9 top forces of our bitter cold state. What are they doing here? Some cultivators recognized the cultivators from the 3 forces and couldn't help but ask in confusion. The 9 forces also belonged to the Despair Divine Nation. They were the 9 top forces within the Despair Divine Nation. Usually, the experts of these forces wouldn't appear in such a remote place. Therefore, the people in the town were discussing animatedly. They didn't know what the cultivators from the three forces were doing here. Soon, this group of people arrived at the inn where Lin Feng was staying. Lin Feng happened to walk out of the inn. He planned to go to the bookstore to take a look. He didn't know what the bookstore was like now. Lin Feng felt that he might be able to find some other clues from the bookstore. However, Lin Feng had just walked out of the inn. Chapter 3704. Among the three forces, the leader of the Godly Saber sect was called Dao Wudi. The leader of the Remnant Immortal Valley was called Han Chu. The leader of the 100 Immortals Pavilion was called by Hua Xiang. Dao Wudi looked like he was in his 40s, but he was actually 32 million years old and had the cultivation of an emperor realm. He was the 7th elder of the Godly Saber sect. He had a high position and power. He looked coldly at Lin Feng and asked, "Are you old Monster Yan's disciple?" Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. He already knew why these people were here. Therefore, Lin Feng said angrily, "You believe old Monster Yan's lies? Can you be any more stupid?" Dao Wudi's expression immediately darkened. He said coldly, "Kid, trouble comes from a mouth. Watch your tone. You can't afford to offend some people." Lin Feng said indifferently, "What? You came here early in the morning to stop me, just to say this to me? Now that you're done, you can leave." Dao Wudi's expression became uglier, because he realized he was speechless because of Lin Feng. This made him quite angry. The leader of the Remnant Immortal Valley, Han Chu, sneered and said, "What a sharp-tongued kid. Come with us now. We have something to ask you." Han Chu said in an unquestionable tone. It seemed that if Lin Feng dared to say no, he would immediately attack, kill Lin Feng. The surrounding cultivators didn't know who old Monster Yin was. Therefore, they didn't know what was going on. However, there was a show to watch. That was enough. It was human nature to watch a show. This was the case even for powerful cultivators. Many people watched the dispute with great interest. The three forces didn't seem to have any intention of letting Lin Feng go. If he was targeted by the three forces, he wanted to escape. Of course, he was daydreaming. "I'm afraid that kid is going to be unlucky." Many people shook their heads. "I've had my eyes on that kid since the first day he came to town, but it seems like I was too late. Now that I've been targeted by the three major powers, I have nothing to do with this anymore." A ferocious-looking cultivator said fiercely. The cultivator who had his eyes on Lin Feng. He wasn't the only one. Many cultivators wore gloomy expressions, because Lin Feng was also their target. But now that Lin Feng was targeted by the three major forces, there was nothing for them to do. Naturally, there was nothing good about the three major forces asking him to follow them. Of course, Lin Feng wouldn't let them have their way. "No," Lin Feng said indifferently. His answer was very straightforward. The onlookers all shook their heads. Right now, the three major forces had yet to make a move. If Lin Feng didn't go, the three major forces would definitely force Lin Feng to go. Therefore, this wasn't because Lin Feng didn't want to go. He could choose not to go. Han Chu looked at Lin Feng indifferently. Then he said coldly, "It's not up to you. If you don't know what's good for you, we don't mind breaking your bones and then taking you back. Anyway, the orders from above are to take you back as long as you're still breathing." Lin Feng said, "Why didn't those three guys make a trip personally? They actually sent a group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals to catch me." Shrimp soldiers and crab generals? After hearing these words, everyone was stunned. Because of these words, it wasn't a good word, describing others as trash. That was why he used the word shrimp soldiers and crab generals. It was a complete disdain for others. Lin Feng was alone. Facing the experts of the three major forces, he actually called them shrimp soldiers and crab generals. This was simply a slap to the faces of the experts of the three major forces. Arrogant. He was really too arrogant. However, in the eyes of the onlookers, Lin Feng's arrogance was completely courting death. And the cultivators of the three major forces were indeed furious with Lin Feng. Their faces were gloomy. There was murderous intent in their eyes. If not for the orders from above that they had to capture him alive, they couldn't wait to kill Lin Feng right now. Ha 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 ha. This is really interesting. I actually met such a bold person today. He actually called us shrimp soldiers and crab generals in front of the three major forces. Everyone, how do you think we should deal with this lad? Bai Huaxiang laughed. Bai Huaxiang was a woman. She was wearing a long pink dress. She dressed like a young girl. But in fact, she didn't look young. Judging from her appearance, she looked like a woman in her 40s or 50s. In fact, Bai Huaxiang was already more than 3 million years old. She had a long lifespan. Originally, she wouldn't have aged so quickly. However, when she was young, Bai Huaxiang didn't cultivate the youth-retaining technique or take the youth-retaining pill. Therefore, she aged faster. When she became stronger and started to pay attention to her appearance, it was already too late. She couldn't rejuvenate herself anymore. Hence, Bai Huaxiang liked this kind of girly-style dressing, and she would wear very heavy makeup to hide the wrinkles on her face. Old women are indeed black-hearted. Lin Feng pursed his lips and said, "What did you say?" Bai Huaxiang even thought that her ears were playing tricks on her. She hated it when people called her old. As such, no one dared to call her old in front of Bai Huaxiang. No one dared to say that. They were simply courting death. However, Lin Feng said it today. Furthermore, in front of so many people. And he said in such an unpleasant way. Old women have bad hearing? Listen carefully. I said that you're an old woman, an old woman, an old woman. Important things had to be said 3 times. Therefore, Lin Feng said the words old woman 3 times in a row. This made Bai Huaxiang angry. Bai Huaxiang was so angry that her face turned ashen and her body was trembling. As for the surrounding cultivators, regardless of whether they were cultivators from the 3 major forces or those who were watching the fun, at this moment, one by one, the corners of their mouths, they were twitching violently. Everyone looked at Lin Feng as if they were looking at a dead man. "I'm going to kill you." Bai Huaxiang shouted angrily and slapped towards Lin Feng. In her rage, Bai Huaxiang couldn't care about anything else. She only wanted to slap Lin Feng to death to vent her anger. "Fellow Taoist, please show mercy. This guy can't die, or else we won't be able to answer to the Lord when we return." Han Chu said hurriedly, afraid that Bai Huaxiang would kill Lin Feng directly. When the time came, they wouldn't be able to answer to the Lord. They would inevitably be punished by the higher-ups. Bai Huaxiang had vented her anger. What about them? They would be implicated by Bai Huaxiang. They naturally didn't want to be implicated. Bai Huaxiang didn't care about Han Chu's words at all. She had no scruples now and only wanted to kill Lin Feng. A good man doesn't fight with a woman. Even if you're an old woman, I also have to follow this principle. Lin Feng continued. He was indeed the world's #1 sharp-tongued person. The words he said, it was enough to infuriate someone to death. Bai Huaxiang was so angry at Lin Feng that she almost vomited blood, seeing that the palm was about to hit Lin Feng's body. At this moment, Lin Feng's body moved to the left. Chapter 3705. Lin Feng dodged Bai Huaxiang's palm, which shocked everyone. Bai Huaxiang was an Emperor Realm expert. When an expert of this level attacked, the power was huge. Once locked on by her, it was as difficult as ascending to heaven to dodge her attack. But Lin Feng did it. Many people were stunned. How did Lin Feng do it? Everyone was puzzled. Could it be because of good luck? Many people couldn't help but mutter. They felt that it was very likely to be the reason. If a young cultivator like Lin Feng had the strength to fight against Bai Huaxiang, no one would believe it. But no matter what the reason was, after Lin Feng dodged the attack, he was stunned. Bai Huaxiang became extremely angry. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, she felt embarrassed. Good. I didn't expect you to be able to dodge my palm. Take my palm again. Let's see how you dodge my attack this time. Bai Huaxiang looked at Lin Feng angrily. In her eyes, killing intent flashed. She was about to attack again, but she was stopped by Han Chu. "Fellow Taoist Han, what are you doing?" Bai Huaxiang looked at Han Chu indifferently. Han Chu said, "Fellow Taoist Bai Huaxiang, the higher-ups ordered us to bring him back alive. This person can't die." Dao Wudi also nodded and said, "We are only responsible for bringing him back. We have no right to punish this kid." "Fellow Taoist Bai Huaxiang, Don't implicate us because of your personal grudge. Although Han Chu and Dao Wudi also wanted to kill Lin Feng, but they knew the severity of the matter. If they wanted to kill Lin Feng again, now is not the time. If they killed Lin Feng now, how could they report to the higher-ups? Bai Huaxiang's expression was extremely ugly. But Han Chu and Dao Wudi appeared together. This face, she also wanted to give it to them. But at this moment, Lin Feng said, "Young master, my time is limited. You bunch of shrimp soldiers and crab generals, attack together. This young master will beat all of you down in one go and save me a lot of time." Lin Feng said. Around them, absolute silence. They were all cultivators who were watching the battle. He stared at Lin Feng, dumbfounded. They even felt that they couldn't think straight. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. As for the cultivators of the three great powers, this included Invincible Dao, Han Chu, and 100 Flowers Fragrance. The corners of their mouths twitched violently. Lin Feng was too arrogant. He was so arrogant that they had the impulse to slap Lin Feng to death. Catch this brat. Then he would pull out his tendons and skin him alive. We just need to keep him alive. Invincible Blade said with a sinister smile. That's a good idea. Han Chu's eyes glinted coldly. No one was happier than 100 Flowers Fragrance. Invincible Dao and Han Chu could no longer tolerate Lin Feng's arrogance. Now, he could finally make a move against Lin Feng. Attack! The three great powers waved their hands. They gave the order. The cultivators of the three great powers around them pounced on Lin Feng. They were like hungry tigers pouncing on their prey. Their eyes were fierce. That brat is too arrogant. Let's wait and see. That brat's fate will be miserable. The surrounding cultivators who were watching the show began to talk about it. In their opinion, Lin Feng would definitely not have a good ending. He provoked the three great powers like this. His fate would be extremely miserable. Boom! Just as the cultivators of the three great powers were about to reach Lin Feng, suddenly, a terrifying aura was emitted from Lin Feng's body. That terrifying aura, it directly enveloped all the cultivators of the three great powers, including Invincible Dao, Han Chu, and 100 Flowers Fragrance. At that moment, Lin Feng seemed to have become another person. He seemed to have transformed into the Grim Reaper of Hell. His eyes emitted a cold and terrifying light. The aura emitted from his body was even more shocking. Kneel down. Lin Feng's cold eyes looked at the cultivators of the three great powers. His voice was like the sound of death drifting out from hell. The faces of the cultivators of the three great powers who were enveloped by Lin Feng's aura turned pale with horror. They felt, in front of Lin Feng, they were like a group of ants. This kind of feeling made their hair stand on end. Plop, plop. The cultivators could not bear the terrifying pressure emitted from Lin Feng's body. They directly knelt on the ground. Their bodies trembled violently. Too powerful. Is he really just a young cultivator? The surrounding cultivators who were watching the show also had shocked expressions on their faces. Lin Feng's battle prowess had astonished them as well. Those who were originally plotting against Lin Feng. The cultivators who wanted to kill Lin Feng and steal his treasures. They were so scared that they broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, they did not make a move. If they made a move, in the face of an expert like Lin Feng, when the time came, they were afraid. They would definitely die. Now that they thought about it, those cultivators could not help but feel scared. Who the hell are you? Dao Wudi asked with a gloomy expression. A powerful young cultivator like Lin Feng. It was impossible for him to be a nameless person. However, they really did not know Lin Feng. Are you qualified to know? Lin Feng said with an indifferent expression. He was as arrogant as ever. However, now, many people even felt that. Lin Feng was not arrogant. This was something that he did naturally. Such a powerful cultivation. He was confident in himself. This was a matter of course. Let's attack together. If the three of us join forces, we can definitely defeat this man. Dao Wudi said in a deep voice. Okay, then let's attack together, Han Chu and Bai Huaxiang said at the same time. The three great experts quickly reached an agreement. Saber breaking heaven and earth. Dao Wudi attacked. He slashed at Lin Feng with his saber. The saber light instantly split the void and then slashed in front of Lin Feng, trying to cut Lin Feng in half. Immortal Fist. Han Chu attacked. He attacked with the Immortal Fist. Endless immortal light surged out and condensed into a fist light. Then it blasted toward Lin Feng. 100 flowers bloom, blood filling the sky. Bai Huaxiang attacked. She also used a peerless unique skill. Hundreds of flowers bloomed in the void. The moment they bloomed, they contained endless killing intent. The bloodlight surged and flooded toward Lin Feng. Good heavens! 3 emperors are attacking together. Can that kid resist the attacks of 3 emperors? The onlookers exclaimed one after another. Their eyes widened as they looked at the center of the battle in shock. Right at this moment, everyone saw it. When the attacks of the 3 emperors arrived, the space around Lin Feng became overlapping. The attacks of 3 emperors. Chapter 3706. How is this possible? After seeing this scene, everyone's faces were full of disbelief. 3 emperors. Their peerless attacks. They were easily broken by Lin Feng. This was too unbelievable. However, all of this was what really happened in front of their eyes. They were no longer willing to believe it. They had to believe it. Everyone couldn't help but be deeply shocked in their hearts. How powerful was Lin Feng's cultivation? How could he do all this? Weak. You're really too weak. Originally, I didn't want to lower myself to the same level as you ants, but you ants actually don't know how to appreciate kindness. If I don't teach you a lesson, I won't be able to calm my anger. All of you kneel down. Lin Feng looked at the 3 Zun Di cultivators coldly. The Supreme Being's aura was unleashed and suppressed the 3 martial emperors. After breaking through to the great emperor realm, Lin Feng's battle strength soared crazily. And with the increase of his cultivation, the power of his supreme aura also increased crazily. Now, the power of Lin Feng's supreme aura. It had increased to a level that made people turn pale with fright. The Supreme Being's domineering aura directly bombarded the 3 venerable emperors. It was like 3 ancient divine mountains. It was as if it was suppressing the 3 emperor masters. The 3 martial emperors began to struggle. However, no matter how hard they struggled, it was difficult to break free from the suppression of the supreme aura. Lin Feng's supreme aura was really too heaven-defying. This was the highest level of aura at the moment. Once it was used, even gods and ghosts would retreat. They couldn't get close. Plop, plop, plop. Finally, the 3 emperors couldn't bear it anymore. They directly knelt on the ground. Humiliation. It was too humiliating. 3 great emperors, high and mighty. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? And today, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he was forced to kneel. It really made them wish they were dead. Heaven-defying, too heaven-defying. Where did this person come from? Could he be the reincarnation of an immortal king? Otherwise, how could he be so powerful at such a young age? The cultivators glanced at Lin Feng in astonishment. Those cultivators who originally wanted to attack Lin Feng were now trembling in fear. Who would have thought? The seemingly harmless Lin Feng. How could it be so terrifying? Indeed, you can't judge a book by its cover. The seawater was immeasurable. The ancients did not deceive us. I've seen the 3 sane emperors of your 3 groups. I have to say, those 3 people are really stupid. They actually sent small fries like you to cause trouble for me. What a joke, said Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked condescendingly at the 3 emperors kneeling in front of him. The surrounding cultivators who were watching the show all smiled bitterly after hearing Lin Feng's casual words. An Emperor Realm Master. They were all high-level members of the myriad clans. They were definitely strong. However, in Lin Feng's eyes, they were just small fries. However, what Lin Feng said was the truth. They were convinced. Whether the 3 of you want to live or die depends on your choice. Lin Feng looked at the 3 emperors indifferently. We want to live, the 3 emperors hurriedly said. Even ants wanted to live, let alone them. They had experienced countless dangers to cultivate to the emperor realm. If they could survive, The three emperors naturally didn't want to die. Good. Since you want to live, then cooperate with me. Later on, whatever I ask you, you will answer. Lin Feng said. We will tell you everything we know. The three emperors hurriedly said. In the face of such a terrifying existence like Lin Feng, the last line of defense in their hearts had been completely destroyed. They didn't dare to resist at all. Lin Feng waved his right hand. A restriction was formed and sealed the void. In this way, the others, they couldn't hear the conversation between the four of them. Who is old Monster Yin? Do you know? Lin Feng asked. Dao Wudi said. We don't know old Monster Yan's previous identity. We only know that he used to be very powerful, but we don't know what happened that caused his cultivation to drop and his lifespan to decrease greatly. He should have been in his prime, but he quickly aged and became a dying man. Lin Feng frowned. It seemed that something must have happened to old Monster Yin that others didn't know about. Lin Feng continued to ask, Didn't your higher-ups mention this to you? Han Chu said. They never mentioned it. Lin Feng continued to ask, Old Monster Yin has something in his hands. What is it? Why are the higher-ups of the three forces so concerned about it? We don't know what it is exactly, and the higher-ups won't tell us about it. However, we heard that it has something to do with the endless ghost sand. Oh, tell me more about it. Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. The endless ghost sand must contain many secrets. First, the cursed doll seemed to be searching for something in the endless ghost sand. Then, there was the phoenix feather that he had obtained. The clues also pointed to the endless ghost sand. The experts of the three forces were looking for old Monster Yin. The thing they wanted from him was also related to the endless ghost sand. He just didn't know if there was a connection between these things. Bai Huaxiang said, We heard that there is a mysterious place in the endless ghost sand. A phoenix once fell there. Perhaps the place that the higher-ups are looking for is the place where the phoenix fell. Phoenix. It was one of the most mysterious and powerful races. Many people like to compare the Dragon Clan with the Phoenix Clan. But in reality, speaking of which, phoenixes were extremely rare. Not to mention pure-blooded phoenixes. Even ordinary phoenixes were extremely rare. However, Lin Feng knew the descendants of the Phoenix Clan. Fairy Shui Yao of the Demon Clan was a descendant of the Phoenix Clan. In addition, Dancing Flame Fairy of the Reincarnation Immortal Sect was also a descendant of the Phoenix Clan. Lin Feng and Fairy Shui Yao had a good relationship, but it couldn't be considered ambiguous. The relationship between Lin Feng and Dancing Fire Celestial Maiden was rather ambiguous. However, the two of them were only at the ambiguous stage. Nothing substantial had happened. Now Lin Feng was basically certain. The phoenix feather that he had obtained. It was very likely that it was the treasure that the three forces were looking for. Of course, it might not be, but even if it wasn't, there should be a certain connection between the phoenix feather and the mysterious treasure that the three forces were looking for. Various thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind. Many things. Everything suddenly became clear. Chapter 3707. No, this old Monster Yin is full of tricks. Therefore, even the three lords joined forces. They were unable to catch up to old Monster Yin, so the three lords sent us here to capture you. Because the three lords felt that you might be a breakthrough to find old Monster Yin. Dao Wudi said, All right, you can go back. By the way, tell your lords not to provoke me, or else the consequences are not something they can bear. Lin Feng said indifferently. The three Emperor-level experts smiled bitterly when they heard Lin Feng's words. Lin Feng's words were extremely arrogant. He actually dared to say that even the holy Emperor-level experts could not bear his anger. When had the three Emperor-level experts ever seen someone as arrogant as Lin Feng? However, they did not dare to refute Lin Feng's words. Because Lin Feng was too powerful, they were just prisoners. Lin Feng removed the restriction and walked into the distance. The three Emperor-level experts and the rest stood up from the ground. Naturally, they did not want to stay here for another minute. Therefore, they all soared into the sky. They flew into the distance. In the blink of an eye, they had already disappeared without a trace. Who exactly is that young master? I'm not sure. With such combat strength at such a young age, once he grows up in the future, he will definitely be a figure who rules the world. Many cultivators disgust and shock. Lin Feng came to Old Monster Yan's bookstore. Old Monster Yan's bookstore was still eerie. After arriving here, Lin Feng felt as if there was a pair of eyes staring at him in the dark. This feeling was very strange. Lin Feng used his divine sense to search the entire bookstore. However, the bookstore was empty. There was nothing. Lin Feng frowned. That feeling just now, was it his imagination? There were many books in the bookstore. A dazzling lineup, all-encompassing. Lin Feng searched carefully. He did not find any valuable clues. You cannot enter the boundless ghost sand as you please. It's too dangerous, Lin Feng muttered to himself. If he could find someone familiar with the boundless ghost sand to bring him into the boundless ghost sand, the situation would be better. However, such a person, it doesn't seem easy to find. Right, Gay Jianshou. Lin Feng suddenly thought of Gui Jianshou. Previously, when this guy sold the immortal king shattering the 9 heavens divine ability to him, he was shocked. He once told himself, the immortal king shattering the 9 heavens was a divine ability he had obtained from the boundless ghost sand. Did this guy really enter the boundless ghost sand? If it was true, he was able to come out of the endless ghost sand alive. This was enough to explain a lot of problems. Perhaps Gui Jianshou really did know how to enter and exit the boundless ghost sand. Lin Feng left the bookstore and went to look for Gui Jianshou. It was easy to find out where Demon's Grimace lived. After Lin Feng inquired about Gui Jianshou's residence, he walked towards it. Demon's Grimace lived in the northwest corner of the town. It was said that this was a courtyard that had been passed down from his ancestors. However, Lin Feng found that the courtyard was very dilapidated and overgrown with weeds. This guy was really lazy. He didn't even know how to repair the courtyard, nor did he know how to clean the courtyard. When Lin Feng arrived, he found that there were already 40 to 50 people gathered here. These people were men and women, old and young. However, they were clearly divided into several waves of forces. One of the waves of people was led by a pair of twin brothers. Of these twin brothers, the eldest was called Wang Ziqian, and the second was called Wang Zijuan. The second wave of forces was led by a white-haired old man. This white-haired old man was nicknamed the White-Haired Old Devil. No one knew his specific name. It was said that he was an expert of the demonic path. The third wave of forces was led by a child who looked to be around 7 or 8 years old. That child's entire body emitted a scorching aura. He wore a golden steel ring and held a red tasseled spear in his hand. This child was called the Red-Tasseled Fairy Child. The aura on his body was extremely terrifying. Of course, he only had the appearance of a child, but his actual age was clearly far greater than that. The fourth wave of people was formed by a few female cultivators. Among them, 3 were quite eye-catching. The first person was dressed in snow-white clothes, like a fairy from the 9th heaven. Her temperament was outstanding and enchanting. This female cultivator was called Shangwan Yao. The second person had an enchanting figure, fiery red lips, and was charming and alluring. This female cultivator was called Nangong Mu. The third person had a voluptuous figure. She didn't look particularly old and was very cute. This female cultivator was called Incursion. The remaining cultivators were all like Lin Feng, coming alone. TSK, brother, why are you here? Could it be that you've also heard about entering the boundless ghost sand? Seeing Lin Feng enter, Gui Jianshou immediately grinned. Lin Feng really didn't know about this matter. This time he came. He originally wanted to find out more about Gui Jianshou. So when he heard Gui Jianshou say that he had entered the boundless ghost sand, Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. Lin Feng said without batting an eyelid, "That's right. I've heard of it, so I came to take a look." Gui Jianshou nodded and didn't say anything else. "How long do we have to wait?" Someone said impatiently. "Just wait. If you can't wait any longer, you can leave on your own." Gui Jianshou said indifferently. Lin Feng didn't know who these people were waiting for. However, he felt that they should be waiting for an extremely important person. Lin Feng didn't say anything. He stood to the side and remained silent. He waited with everyone. Cough, cough, cough. Not long after, the sound of coughing came from outside. Then, an old man walked in. This old man had a stooped body and was leaning on a walking stick. His face was very pale. It was as if he had contracted a serious illness. Great ancestor, Gue Jianshou hurriedly bowed to the old man. The old man nodded. Then he said, "Everyone should have already inquired about the rules, right? Everyone, 10,000 immortal stones." Everyone nodded and then took out 10,000 immortal stones each and handed them to Gue Jianshou. 10,000 immortal stones was not a small amount. To anyone, it was a considerable amount of money. To be able to pay 10,000 immortal stones, the cultivators who came here must have extraordinary backgrounds. Lin Feng also took out 10,000 immortal stones and handed them to Gue Jianshou. Gue Jianshou lowered his voice and said, "When we enter the boundless ghost sand, follow me. Don't go too far." Lin Feng was slightly stunned and then nodded. Gue Jianshou obviously wanted to take care of him. Chapter 3708. Of course we know the rules. A cultivator said, "When do we set off?" Someone asked, "Let's set off now." The old man said. Under the old man's lead, the group of people left the town and flew towards the endless ghost sand. On the way, Lin Feng found out through a conversation with Gue Jianshou. This pale old man who seemed to be suffering from a serious illness was known as Elder Ghost. He was one of Gue Jianshou's ancestors. Now, only he and this ancestor were left in Gue Jianshou's clan. Every time the endless ghost sand moved, a terrifying creature would walk out from the endless ghost sand. His ancestor would bring a group of people with him. He would enter the endless ghost sand to search for opportunities. So, Gue Jianshou was not lying when he said that he had entered the endless ghost sand. Of course, this guy did not tell the complete truth. For example, what he told Lin Feng before. He had mistakenly entered the endless ghost sand. This was to deceive Lin Feng. To be precise, Gue Jianshou had entered the endless ghost sand with Elder Ghost. 10 days later, the group arrived at the outer area of the endless ghost sand. The afterglow of the setting sun illuminated the sky. The sky seemed to be dyed with blood, and the endless ghost sand. But it was so quiet that it made people feel like they were going crazy. We're here. The desert in front is the famous endless ghost sand. Gue Jianshou pointed at the black desert in front of them. Many people looked at the endless ghost sand. Then, they could not help but exclaim. The endless ghost sand had brought a deep shock to their hearts. "I can't wait to enter the endless ghost sand and unlock the mystery of the endless ghost sand," a cultivator said. Lin Feng guessed that some of these people might be cultivators from the large factions of the Bitter Cold state. Some of them might be cultivators from other states. Some of them might be cultivators from the outer realm. The composition was extremely complicated. Elder Ghost laughed sinisterly and said, "Don't be anxious. Wait until you enter the endless ghost sand. There will be plenty of time for you to comprehend the glory of the endless ghost sand." "Are we entering the endless ghost sand now?" a cultivator asked. Many people were moved. They did not want to wait any longer. He wanted to enter the endless ghost sand right now. Lin Feng shook his head slightly. He had escaped from the endless ghost sand and knew how terrifying the endless ghost sand was at night. And now it was nightfall. It probably wouldn't take long. Therefore, now is not a good time to enter the endless ghost sand. The spectral elder said, "It's almost dark now. The night of the endless ghost sand is the most annoying time. I don't want to experience so many nights. You guys rest here today. Tomorrow at dawn, after the darkness disperses, we'll enter the endless ghost sand." Although many cultivators were unwilling to do so. However, they couldn't go against Elder Ghost's words. Everyone nodded in agreement. The group of people arrived at a mountain range 30 miles away from the endless ghost sands. They entered a valley. Ghost Grimace pulled out a pouch and pulled out a large amount of silver powder. Next, he scattered the powder in a circle with a diameter of over 20 meters around the valley. Everyone was puzzled. He didn't know what Demon's Worry was doing. Someone asked, "What's the meaning of this?" Ghost Grimace said, "The endless ghost sand is very strange. This silver powder can ward off evil spirits and help us avoid the detection of those unknown and terrifying creatures." Someone nodded. They felt that the other party was very thoughtful. However, there were also some people who had indifferent expressions and didn't think much of it. Elder Ghost said, "Don't leave the circle. Everyone find a place. Rest here. When we enter the endless ghost sand tomorrow, it won't be as easy as it is now." Lin Feng found a place to sit cross-legged. He adjusted his state of mind. The others also found a place to sit down and rest. Night fell. Darkness enveloped the land. Gusts of cold wind blew from the direction of the endless ghost sand. Even though it was dozens of miles away, it still made many cultivators in the valley feel their hair stand on end. Many people were woken up. Under such circumstances, there was no way to rest, because the aura emitted from the endless ghost sand was too terrifying. And now, no one had entered the endless ghost sand. In the latter half of the night, something seemed to fly out from the endless ghost sand. That terrifying creature's body almost merged with the darkness. It flapped a pair of huge wings. It quickly flew over from the sky. What kind of creature is it? Its aura is too terrifying, a cultivator said with a pale face. No one could answer him. Elder Ghost and Gue Jianshou were silent. The creature in the endless ghost sand can already walk out. Blood clouds and dark corrosion. Will that huge and terrifying creature also walk out from the endless ghost sand? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. Although the creature that just flew over was terrifying, Lin Feng felt that, compared to the blood clouds, dark corrosion, and that huge and terrifying creature, there was still a big gap. Perhaps those existences, they were the true overlords of the endless ghost sand. Whoosh! Whoosh! There seemed to be something moving on the ground. What is that? Someone pointed outside the mountain range. Everyone saw a huge body. It seemed to be a huge snake. It was moving on the ground. The snake's body was too thick. It was even taller than a mountain that was 3,000 to 4,000 meters high. It was impossible to imagine how huge the snake's body was. Suddenly, the snake seemed to have sensed something. It raised its head. It was an unimaginably huge head. Its eyes were as huge as 2 moons. At this moment, its cold eyes were looking at the mountain range. Everyone was silent. No one dared to make a sound. Everyone even held their breaths. They were worried that their breathing would attract the snake's attention. The snake's body was so huge. It was hard to imagine how terrifying its strength was. Many people felt that their hearts were about to jump out. They were afraid of being discovered by the snake. If they were really discovered, when the time came, they might become the snake's food. Fortunately, the silver powder had an effect. It covered everyone's aura. The snake didn't sense the people in the valley. Whoosh! A silver creature flew over from afar. It had a pair of wings on its back and was covered in silver scales. No one knew what race it was. However, the creature's aura was extremely terrifying. It made one's hair stand on end. The silver creature quickly flew into the distance. The snake's attention was attracted by the silver creature. It didn't stop and quickly flew into the distance. Until now. Chapter 3709. Were those creatures just now the creatures that walked out of the endless ghost sand? How terrifying! A cultivator said with lingering fear. Fortunately, they were not discovered by the giant snake. Or else, it would be too dangerous. Many people nodded, feeling extremely emotional. Now they all felt a lingering fear. If they were really discovered by the giant snake, it was hard to say how many of them would be able to survive in the end. Gue Jianshou said, "Everyone, don't talk. The danger is not completely gone yet." It was still night. The peerless terror was still entrenched. They had to be cautious. Everyone hurriedly kept quiet. They did not dare to say anything more, because this place was simply too dangerous. Everyone was also worried about attracting the attention of other creatures. That night, more than 10 terrifying creatures continuously passed by the mountain range above or around the mountain range. Fortunately, those terrifying creatures did not discover Lin Feng's group. Dawn arrived, and the darkness dissipated. This made everyone let out a long sigh of relief. Since it's daytime, those terrifying creatures should not appear anymore, right? Someone said. Elder Ghost said, theoretically speaking, those terrifying creatures won't appear during the day, but this isn't an absolute thing. Especially during this period of time, the creatures in the endless ghost sand are coming out one after another. Some of them might choose to appear during the day. This caused everyone's hearts to tremble slightly. Those creatures were so terrifying. If they encountered them, it would be too dangerous. Therefore, many people could not help but feel very worried. Elder Ghost said sinisterly, "Everyone knows that there are treasures in the endless ghost sand. However, how can the treasures here be so easily obtained? Once we enter the endless ghost sand, we will definitely encounter many dangers. Therefore, before entering, everyone should think thrice. Everyone should have already seen those terrifying creatures last night. However, those terrifying creatures we saw were only the tip of the iceberg after entering the endless ghost sand. I will now give everyone 15 minutes to think. If you regret it, it's not too late to leave now. Of course, this old man will not be greedy for the immortal stones that you have paid. I will return all of them to you." Many people's expressions were gloomy and uncertain. The dangerous situation last night, they had already seen it. Moreover, they had already seen so many terrifying creatures before entering the endless ghost sand. One could imagine how dangerous the endless ghost sand was. However, they were truly unwilling to leave just like that. In many people's eyes, since Elder Ghost, a veteran of the pugilistic world who had been safe and sound in the endless ghost sand many times, was leading the way, Elder Ghost, who was leading the way. Naturally, there wouldn't be any danger. Even if there was danger, he should be able to overcome it smoothly. Wealth comes from danger. Soon, some cultivators expressed their opinions. One after another, more and more cultivators stood out to be perverts. In the end, no one backed out. Since none of you are leaving, I will repeat what I told you before. Once we enter the endless ghost sand, do not act on your own. Listen to my commands. Do you understand? Elder Ghost looked at everyone with an aggressive gaze. Everyone nodded. Some people naturally decided to listen to Elder Ghost's orders, because Elder Ghost's experience was there for all to see. But some people, he didn't intend to listen to Elder Ghost's orders at all. They had their own opinions. Of course, these people did not express their inner thoughts. Otherwise, the Ghost Elder might have directly chased them away. Since no one has any objections, then follow me. As Elder Ghost spoke, he took the lead and walked towards the endless ghost sand. Everyone followed behind Elder Ghost and walked into the endless ghost sand. Once again, they arrived at the endless ghost sand. Lin Feng was filled with emotions. Within the endless ghost sand, danger lurked everywhere. But now there were so many of them entering the endless ghost sand together. There was also Elder Ghost, who had entered and exited the endless ghost sand many times to lead the way. Thus, his current mood was completely different from the last time. Within the endless ghost sand, a gloomy and cold aura filled the air. Even though it was daytime, there were still gusts of ghastly wind blowing in this place. Even though the sun was scorching, everyone felt a chill run down their spines. Look, a palace appeared in front of us. Someone pointed forward. Everyone looked over. Sure enough, they saw a palace. It was luxurious and magnificent, sacred and heavy, brilliant and glorious. It was like an immortal palace where immortals lived. Everyone's eyes couldn't help but light up. Only Elder Ghost's expression remained unchanged. That's not a real immortal palace. It's an illusion imprinted by heaven and earth. We will never be able to reach that place. Elder Ghost said, "It can't be. That palace looks so real." A cultivator said, they felt that the palace should be real. Thus, they didn't want to give up. Instead, they wanted to head towards the palace. Often, the more real something looks, the more it can deceive people. Elder Ghost said, seeing Elder Ghost's insistence, those cultivators who originally wanted to explore the palace could only give up. Everyone followed behind Elder Ghost and continued to head deeper into the endless ghost sand. At noon, Sun Jingrong's eyes lit up. They saw an oasis appear in their line of sight. Everyone quickly headed towards the oasis. It was really too difficult to see an oasis in the endless ghost sand. There's a cave abode under the oasis. Elder Ghost said. What? Cave abode? Is that true? Many people couldn't help but exclaim. Everyone came here to look for various opportunities. It was just that they couldn't find anything before this. However, after hearing Elder Ghost's words, everyone became excited. Will there be danger down there? Someone asked. They were worried that there might be some terrifying creature down there. If everyone went down rashly, if they encountered that terrifying creature, the consequences would be unpredictable. That creature has already left. I don't know if there are any other dangers. If you're worried, stay up there and wait. The rest of you can go down with me to take a look. Elder Ghost said. He took the lead and flew towards the oasis. The opportunity was right in front of them. Even if there was danger, no one would choose to retreat. Everyone also soared into the sky. They flew over. Then, they entered the pool of the oasis. The water in the pool was extremely cold. Originally, Lin Feng thought that the pool wouldn't be very deep. However, after diving in, he realized that he was completely wrong. The pool was very deep. After diving for 400 to 500 meters, he finally saw the bottom. However, what surprised Lin Feng was at the bottom, there were a few corpses. Those corpses were already extremely rotten. It was hard to tell what kind of creature those corpses belonged to. Lin Feng originally wanted to go closer to take a look. However, when he tried to go closer to the corpses, he smelled a foul stench. Moreover, Lin Feng felt that the rotten corpses contained a strong poison. Therefore, Lin Feng gave up on exploring the rotten corpses. Look, there's a cave abode over there. Chapter 37:10. Below the pool was a rock wall. The cave abode was located on top of a rock wall. After seeing the cave abode, everyone flew towards it. In front of the cave abode, there was a platform. Everyone landed on the platform. It should be here, but everyone must be careful, just in case something unexpected happens later. Elder Ghost reminded. He was very experienced and knew what they needed to pay attention to now. Many times, due to carelessness, it was very likely to cause serious consequences, especially in this kind of place where danger lurked everywhere. It was even more so. Oh, everyone nodded. Then, they followed Elder Ghost into the cave. The cave was deep and serene. Everyone went deep into the cave. Everyone was very careful. However, they didn't encounter any danger along the way. In the end, they reached the depths of the cave. In the depths of the cave, there was a huge belly of the mountain. Around the belly of the mountain, there were many stone rooms opened up. When they saw those stone rooms, many people's eyes instantly lit up. In the past, this was very likely a hidden place opened up by the ancient cultivators. Later, it was occupied by the terrifying creatures in the endless ghost sand. Oh, these cultivators consciously spread out and each locked onto a stone room. Elder Ghost and Gue Jianshou did the same. Firstly, they wanted to earn immortal stones from these cultivators. Secondly, when they were looking for opportunities, they would also try their best to maximize their own benefits. Anyone would choose to do so. There was no doubt about it. Lin Feng locked onto a stone room. He came to the front of the stone room. Then, he pushed open the stone door of the stone room. Then, he entered the stone room. Lin Feng looked at the stone room in shock. Inside the stone room, there were actually insect nests. This stone room, it should be a place to cultivate the insect race. Lin Feng revealed a look of joy. He didn't know if he would be able to gain anything. Right now, he liked to cultivate all kinds of insects. This was especially true for insects that live in groups. Lin Feng carefully examined the hives. He couldn't help but sigh. The eggs in those nests died before they could even hatch. It should be because of long-term malnutrition. In the end, he died. Lin Feng didn't find the insect queen. Even the corpse of the insect queen was nowhere to be found. This was very strange. Could it be that the owner of this cave didn't die here? He left the cave and took the broodmother away. I don't know what happened after that, but he never returned. Lin Feng thought of a possibility. He couldn't help but mutter to himself. He thought. The credibility of this speculation was still very high. Lin Feng discovered that there were still some insect materials piled up here, but these materials were too old. It was also completely destroyed. There was nothing to be gained in the stone chamber. Lin Feng planned to leave. However, at this moment, the demon lord's voice resounded in Lin Feng's mind. This is a spirit parasite worm's egg. This kind of spirit parasite worm is very special. The egg contains a large amount of pure matter. This pure matter, it can be absorbed by other spirit parasite worm eggs. Although the spirit parasite worm's egg is already dead, the pure matter inside is still there. These spirit parasite worm's egg are good stuff. You can collect these spirit parasite worm's egg, then grind it into powder and sprinkle it on top of the great desolate demon refining worm's egg. With these spirit parasite worm's egg, the great desolate demon refining worm's larvae will be able to hatch very quickly. After hearing the demon lord's words, Lin Feng's eyes immediately lit up. He didn't expect. These eggs actually had so many uses. It was really too good. The heavens were simply helping him. Lin Feng kept the spirit parasite worm's egg. Just as he left the stone chamber, he heard the sound of fighting. Two groups of cultivators were fighting in a stone chamber, and the fight was very intense. The two groups of cultivators fighting were the white-haired old devil and the red-tasseled immortal child. Why are these people fighting? Lin Feng looked at Gue Jianshou and asked. There seems to be some kind of treasure inside. The two forces are fighting over it. As for what kind of treasure it is, I didn't see it. This battle was extremely tragic. The white-haired old devil's side lost 2 experts, and the red-tasseled immortal child's side lost 3 experts. In the end, that treasure was obtained by the red-tasseled immortal child. This red-tasseled immortal child was extremely terrifying. Originally, he was evenly matched with the white-haired old devil. However, he could spit out a type of true samadhi fire. That true samadhi fire was extremely terrifying. Once it burned, it was almost impossible to extinguish. It would cause great harm to cultivators. Thus, the white-haired old devil lost to the red-tasseled immortal child. As the result of the battle between the two strongest experts came out, these two groups of cultivators did not continue to fight. Although the red-tasseled immortal child had lost 3 of his subordinates, he had obtained the treasure. He seemed to be in a good mood. On the other hand, the white-haired old devil, not only did he lose 2 subordinates, he also did not obtain the treasure. His mood was rather gloomy. Thus, his expression was extremely ugly. Elder Ghost had long been used to this kind of thing. As a result, he did not stop the 2 forces from fighting at all. Lin Feng curled his lips and said, "No one has ever died in the hands of the terrifying creatures of the endless ghost sand, but someone has already died in the hands of an ally who is exploring together. How ironic. Everything is for the sake of benefits," Gue Jianshou said. This sentence was very much in line with reality, but it was also incomparably cruel. Everything was for the sake of benefits. That was why he was able to act so coldly and mercilessly. Everyone dispersed and continued to search for other things. The stone room had already been opened. The things inside had also been taken away by others. Lin Feng did not know what others had obtained from the stone room. He did not care about that either. The only thing Lin Feng cared about was what he had obtained. This time, Lin Feng was very satisfied to be able to obtain the eggs of the spiritual goo, because very soon he would be able to cultivate a swarm of great desolation demon refining insects. And the swarm of great desolation demon refining insects would be of great help to him. After searching for a while and finding nothing, everyone decided to leave. Everyone went out of the cave and came to the pool outside. The group did not stop and flew up. Lin Feng glanced at the rotting corpses lying on the ground. He frowned slightly. Then he flew up. After flying for about 100 meters, it was at this moment that something terrible happened. One by one, the cultivators' bodies fell uncontrollably to the ground. What's going on? Many people's expressions suddenly changed. The companions of those cultivators wanted to catch them. So, They turned around and swam down. "Oh my God, those rotting corpses have revived," those cultivators who swam down exclaimed, attracting everyone's attention. The group looked at the bottom of the pool. The rotting corpses that were originally lying at the bottom of the pool, unmoving, had all stood up. Chapter 37:11. Each of the rotting corpses emitted an extremely terrifying fluctuation from within their bodies. Those pairs of cold eyes were like the eyes of the Grim Reaper, filled with a gloomy and terrifying aura. It contained an endless amount of killing intent. Corpse poison. They must have been poisoned by the corpse poison. Hurry up and take the antidote pill. Elder Ghost couldn't help but shout in a deep voice. The corpse poison invaded their bodies. It depended on each person's physique. Some people might have their bodies invaded by the corpse poison in an extremely short period of time. It was difficult to resist the corpse poison, and some people, their physiques were stronger. Therefore, they could resist for a longer time. No one dared to hesitate. They quickly took out the antidote pill. Then they swallowed it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One by one, the rotting corpses quickly soared into the sky. They quickly rushed towards a group of cultivators above. Hurry up and leave. Don't bother with those who are deeply poisoned. Otherwise, even you will die. Elder Ghost shouted in a deep voice. He took the lead and rushed up. Those cultivators who originally wanted to save their companions all had gloomy expressions. They gritted their teeth and quickly turned back, also rushing up. Corpse poison immortal. Corpse poison immortal. At this moment, the rotting corpses below let out a sinister and terrifying sound. Their sound. It was even worse than the sound of the evil spirits in hell. No matter who saw those terrifying existences, they all felt their hearts tremble. They would feel a sense of horror. Those terrifying rotting corpses opened their big hands. Then, in the big hands, a large amount of dark green energy surged out. That dark green energy. It was actually an extremely terrifying poison. Everyone couldn't help but reveal a horrified expression. Those rotting corpses just now didn't attack them at all. The reason why someone was poisoned before. It was probably the corpse poison that was automatically emitted by those corpses. And that corpse poison, it blended into the water. Although everyone had an energy light shield to protect their bodies when they entered the water. However, the corpse poison should have seeped through the energy barrier. Then, it silently entered the cultivator's body. It was just that no one had noticed this before. Now, the corpse poison had truly erupted. Immediately, an extremely terrifying scene unfolded. The water in the pool had turned dark green. The slower cultivators were directly swallowed by the dark green pond water. Lin Feng and the others saw that the cultivators who were swallowed by the dark green pond did not even scream. Their bodies were instantly dissolved. Holy shit, what level of poison is this? After seeing the terrifying might of the corpse poison, Lin Feng was so scared that his face turned pale. That kind of corpse poison was too terrifying. He didn't give anyone a chance to detoxify the poison. Although Lin Feng had the white jade toad, which could neutralize all kinds of poisons in cultivators' bodies, Lin Feng still had the white jade toad. However, the prerequisite was that the cultivator was still alive. However, the current situation was clearly not like that, because the toxicity of the corpse poison was too strong. He didn't even give you a chance to resist. Once he was submerged by the corpse poison, in an instant his body was completely corroded. Even the white jade toad had no way to detoxify the poison. Everyone pushed their speed to the limit. They quickly flew upwards. However, there were still many cultivators who did not manage to escape in time and were submerged by the corpse poison. In the end, they died tragically in the pool. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air was heard. One cultivator after another rushed out. A total of 35 people rushed out. The remaining people all died in the pool. Hurry up and leave this place, Elder Go said. No one dared to stay. One by one, they sped up. They left quickly. Night fell. Gue Jianshou took out the silver powder again and scattered it in a circle. Everyone hid in the circle to rest. This night was not peaceful. There were terrifying creatures passing by where they were. But fortunately, those terrifying creatures did not notice Lin Feng and the others. The next day, the sun rose. The group continued to set off. When it was almost noon, the sun was covered by dark clouds. Then it began to rain heavily. The rain fell heavily. From afar, Lin Feng saw a temple. "Look over there." Lin Feng pointed at the temple in the distance. He didn't know if that cluster of temples was a mirage or a void brand. In the desert, mirages and void imprints often appeared. So, after seeing some scenes in the desert, try not to chase after them, because it was very easy to get lost in the desert, especially in a terrifying place like the endless ghost sand. All the more one should not casually explore it. Because of this place, the endless ghost sand, one wrong step, they might be consigned to eternal damnation. They had to be careful. It doesn't seem to be a mirage or a void imprint. Elder Ghost said in shock. He had entered the endless ghost sand many times, so he understood the situation here very well. He also had his own unique understanding of the various scenes that appeared in the endless ghost sand. Thus, when they heard Elder Ghost's words, everyone could not help but feel happy. That cluster of temples looked extraordinary, and it was a cluster of temples that appeared in the boundless ghost sand. A temple that appeared in such a place, anyone who saw it would probably let their imagination run wild. Lin Feng suddenly thought of the temple that he saw in the endless ghost sand. It worshipped the statue of a lion with a human face. Thanks to that temple, he was able to survive. Therefore, regarding the temple that appeared in the endless ghost sand, Lin Feng was extremely interested. Perhaps, that place, he would gain something. "Come, let's go and take a look," Elder Ghost said, and took the lead to fly toward the temple. The rest of the people followed closely behind. Everyone was looking forward to it. Not long after, Lin Feng and the rest finally arrived outside the temple. Those temples were still emitting the power of divinity. It was extremely extraordinary. "I wonder what we can get here," many people said excitedly. Everyone entered the temple complex. But just as they arrived here, they saw densely packed thousands of flying swords slashing toward them. Every flying sword was incomparably terrifying. There were too many flying swords. Those flying swords instantly tore through the void. It was simply peerless and terrifying. The sky was filled with sword shadows. They intertwined in the void. It was extremely shocking. Many people's expressions changed abruptly. They did not even have time to react. Those flying swords had already slashed toward them. Many people felt the aura of death. "Humph!" Elder Ghost snorted and waved his hand. A mysterious golden metal ball flew out. That mysterious golden metal ball emitted a golden light. And those golden light, it directly formed a golden light shield, enveloping everyone in it. Clang, clang, clang. Chapter 37:12. Elder Ghost's magic treasure was extremely extraordinary. It formed a defensive light shield that blocked the attacks of the densely packed flying swords. So. At this moment, dozens of people flew out from the temple. The person in the lead was a middle-aged cultivator in white with an extraordinary temperament. The middle-aged cultivator in white waved both of his hands. Suddenly, the densely packed flying swords all flew towards him. Then, those flying swords turned into a flying sword. It flew into the scabbard on the back of the middle-aged cultivator. This middle-aged cultivator was dressed like a sword immortal. Who was he? "Ha ha, Elder Ghost. Long time no see. It seems that your harvest these years is not small. You actually obtained such a powerful defensive magic treasure." The middle-aged cultivator suddenly laughed and said. Lin Feng could not help but reveal an incomparably astonished expression. It seemed that the middle-aged cultivator should be acquainted with Elder Ghost. However, Lin Feng was not clear about the relationship between him and Elder Ghost. "Oh." Elder Ghost took back his treasure and said sinisterly, "By Aegean, your imperial sword technique is getting more and more powerful. However, we have not interfered with each other's business. What is the meaning of this?" The middle-aged cultivator said with a smile. "Elder Ghost, don't be angry. Just now, after meeting an old friend, I couldn't help but say hello. There is no other intention. This by Aegean had a knife hidden in his smile. Obviously, he was a rather sinister person. Elder Ghost coldly looked at by Aegean and said, "You go your way. I will cross my single plank bridge. Don't test this old man again. Otherwise, don't blame this old man for being ruthless." "Elder Ghost, why do you have to be so angry?" Aegean said with a slight smile. Elder Ghost's expression was gloomy. He did not pay attention to Aegean and left with Lin Feng and the others. "Master, these people have also entered the temple group. If there is an opportunity here, I'm afraid that I will have to share it with them. I am really unwilling." After Lin Feng and the others entered the temple group, a cultivator beside Aegean said. His expression was extremely gloomy. Aegean said, "For ordinary opportunities, there is no harm in them going. If they come across some heaven-defying opportunities, then think of a way to get rid of these people. Among these people, although there are many experts, but as long as we get rid of Ghost Elder, the rest will definitely die." "My lord is wise." The group of cultivators hurriedly flattered him. Let's go. Let's go to the temples and see if there are any good things left behind," Aegean said. Then he rushed toward the temples. "Who is that Aegean?" Lin Feng looked at Gue Jiancho and asked curiously. Gue Jiancho said, "The son of the great elder of the Holy Sword sect, which is ranked third among the 9 major forces of the divine nation of despair. This person has cultivated for 520,000 years, and his cultivation is unfathomable. His sister is one of the most beloved concubines of the Despair Divine Kingdom's monarch." Lin Feng said, "I never thought that this person would have such an extraordinary identity. However, this Aegean gives me the feeling that he is the kind of person who hides a knife in his smile. This person must be guarded against. Yes, be careful. Sometimes the human heart is the most terrifying," Demon's Grimace said. At this time, everyone had arrived in front of the first temple that was relatively intact. Then, everyone entered the temple. The shrine in this temple was already broken. As for the statue that was originally placed on top of the shrine, it was long gone. After entering the temple, everyone searched carefully, but they did not find anything. Then, everyone continued to walk toward the second temple. The shrine in the second temple was broken, and the statue disappeared. Then, the third temple, the fourth temple, the fifth temple. They searched more than 10 temples in a row. The similarity between these temples was that the shrine was broken. The statue disappeared. This made Lin Feng feel very strange. It was understandable that the shrine was broken. After all, over the years, the shrine could indeed be damaged. However, Lin Feng found it hard to understand why the statue disappeared here. Could it be that someone had taken away all the idols in the temple? Of course, this possibility could not be ruled out. However, other than this possibility, Lin Feng could not think of any other possibilities for the time being. Then, everyone looked at many other temples, and the situation was the same. All the shrines inside the temples were damaged, and the statue disappeared. The group of people led by General Aegean was the same as Lin Feng's group. None of them gained anything. In the end, the 2 groups of cultivators gathered again. They came to the largest temple. In front of this temple was a huge square, and after the square was the temple. This should be the main temple. Looking at the structure, it even looked a bit like an ancestral hall. The cultivators on both sides looked at each other coldly, but there was no conflict here. The 2 groups of cultivators entered the main temple. What surprised everyone was that the shrine and statue in the main temple were still intact. The statue on the shrine was the statue of an enlightened monk. The enlightened monk was sitting cross-legged with his palms together. In the gap between his fingers, there was a piece of golden leaf between them. When they saw the golden leaf, everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. It was definitely an extraordinary thing, but they didn't know what was recorded in it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One cultivator after another flew towards the golden brocade. They wanted to snatch the golden brocade. But at this moment, the statue actually opened its eyes. Endless Buddhist light surged out from the statue's body. Namo Amitabha, benefactors, Let go of the stubbornness in your hearts, and you can become a Buddha on the spot. Suddenly, the statue spoke. His voice was like the divine voice of the heavenly Tao. It instantly resounded in their ears. When they heard the words of the statue, everyone's spirits suddenly shook. They felt as if their spiritual worlds were about to be controlled by the statues. This statue was incomparably terrifying, and it used the great purification technique of Buddhism. It wanted to enslave everyone. One evil monk. Many people's expressions became ugly. They hurriedly used all kinds of wondrous techniques to resist the corrosion of the statue's purification power. Luya's star chart. Lin Feng, on the other hand, was using the supreme divine ability of Luya's star chart to resist the terrifying purification power of the statue. Luya's star chart was indeed worthy of being the supreme technique passed down by Taoist Luya. His cultivation might not be the strongest among the crowd. However, Lin Feng was the first cultivator to resolve the statue's purification power. After Lin Feng resolved the statue's purification power, he leaped up and flew directly towards the statue. His speed was extremely fast, and he instantly arrived in front of the statue. Then, he grabbed the golden leaf in his hand. After Lin Feng took the golden leaf, the statue closed its eyes and no longer moved. Chapter 37:13. The gold leaf was in his hands. Lin Feng played with the gold leaf in his hand. The corner of his mouth revealed a smile. What was recorded on the gold leaf? It really made one look forward to it. Of course, now was not the time to check what was recorded on the gold leaf. He planned to put the gold leaf away. After leaving the endless ghost sand, he would carefully check the contents of the gold leaf. "Oh, kid, hand it over. Kid, this thing is too hot to handle, and it doesn't belong to you, so you should know how to deal with it." Cold voices suddenly rang out one after another. One by one, cultivators stepped forward. They looked at Lin Feng indifferently. They watched as a rogue cultivator like Lin Feng got the gold leaf. The rest of the people were naturally very unwilling. Moreover, this piece of gold leaf clearly recorded something extraordinary. They would naturally fight for it. Among these cultivators who forced Lin Feng, there were cultivators who followed Elder Ghost in, and also cultivators on by Yijin's side. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Since the thing was taken by me, then it's mine. In this kind of place, what treasures can be obtained depends on our own luck. Everyone, don't violate the rules." Immediately, a cultivator sneered and said, "The weak are not qualified to talk about rules, and rules are set by the strong. If you are a smart person, you shouldn't say such words. If you don't know how to appreciate favors, I don't mind letting another skeleton appear in the endless ghost sand." The other party was blatantly threatening Lin Feng. They didn't put Lin Feng in their eyes at all. Or else, they wouldn't ignore Lin Feng like this. But thinking about it, it was normal. Lin Feng was really too young. In addition, he was still a human cultivator. Although these cultivators could sense Lin Feng's realm, the cultivation of the god Lord realm. However, in their eyes, Lin Feng was still like an ant. Therefore, this was also the main reason why they dared to bully Lin Feng. The strong were high and mighty, bullying the weak. Such a thing, in the world of cultivators, they could be seen everywhere. Stupid people have their own opinions. Lin Feng replied indifferently. Clearly, he was implying that the cultivators who looked down on him and wanted to snatch the gold leaf from him were idiots. Reckless fool. The expression of a cultivator beside by Yijin suddenly sank, and he stepped forward. Some of the cultivators who followed Elder Ghost and also wanted to make a move, but in the end, they still had to give Elder Ghost some face. He'd make a move immediately. Of course, if Lin Feng was killed, obviously, they would not hesitate to snatch the gold leaf from the other party. One move, it's enough to take your dog life. The cultivator who stepped forward was an imperial emperor. He looked at Lin Feng indifferently and sneered. His gaze towards Lin Feng was filled with contempt and disdain. It was a kind of contempt that came from the depths of his bones. Emperor, looking down on the god Emperor. It seemed to be a very normal thing. Boom! After this Emperor-level cultivator arrived beside Lin Feng, he directly struck out a palm towards Lin Feng. Powerful magical power surged out. In his hand, endless mountains and rivers were condensed. The endless mountains and rivers flew out in an instant. It was as if they were going to evolve into a real world of mountains and rivers. A lion would still use its full strength to hunt a rabbit. Although this cultivator who attacked Lin Feng was full of contempt and disdain for Lin Feng. From his tone, it seemed like killing Lin Feng was as easy as killing an ant. However, when they really fought, it was definitely not the same as what he said. When they really fought, this cultivator was still extremely cautious, even though he did not use his full strength. But he still used 70 to 80% of his combat strength. When they felt how terrifying the power contained in this cultivator's terrifying attack was, everyone looked at Lin Feng as if they were looking at a dead man. No one thought that Lin Feng would be able to withstand the attack of this Emperor-level expert. Just as that terrifying attack was about to hit Lin Feng flicked his finger. Buzz! The void trembled slightly. Then, a stream of sword chi condensed and slashed towards the Emperor-level expert. That sword chi instantly tore apart the world of mountains and rivers that this Emperor-level cultivator had created. Then, the power of that sword chi did not decrease much. It directly arrived in front of that Emperor-level cultivator. The Imperial Emperor-level cultivator didn't even have time to react. In the next moment, a poochie sound was heard. That Emperor-level cultivator. His body was instantly torn into two halves. Lin Feng only used one move to kill that Emperor-level cultivator. Instant kill? Oh my god, am I seeing things? Exclamations of surprise rose and fell one after another. Many shocked gazes looked at Lin Feng. Everyone's face was filled with disbelief. Who would dare to believe it? Lin Feng's attack actually had such terrifying power? That was an Imperial Emperor realm expert. Just like that, he was instantly killed by Lin Feng. It was really unbelievable. You're just a small fry, yet you dare to come out and jump around? You're really courting death. Lin Feng said with an indifferent expression. Any Imperial Emperor was an expert whose name could shake a region. How could he possibly be a small character that didn't enter the mainstream? Lin Feng's words showed that he didn't care about Imperial Emperors at all. It could be said that he was extremely arrogant. However, Lin Feng did have the strength. No one could refute it. Lin Feng looked at the cultivators beside by Yijian, an elder ghost with an indifferent expression. He sneered and said, "Are there still any blind people who want to come out and die? You can come out now. It's best if you come out together, because my time is very precious. If I don't want to deal with you one by one, it's simply a waste of time." Arrogant. He was really too arrogant. Many people's gazes were gloomy, and their eyes flickered with dense killing intent. Kid, you do have some strength, but you're too arrogant. At this time, a middle-aged cultivator in blue beside by Yijian stepped forward. His cold eyes looked at Lin Feng. This was an Emperor-level expert. Dongfang Haojuan. This person is a third Heaven Emperor-level expert. A cultivator beside Elder Ghost couldn't help but exclaim. Obviously, he recognized the identity of this cultivator. A third Heaven Emperor-level expert was definitely a terrifying existence. If an Emperor-level expert makes a move, no matter how monstrous that kid is, I'm afraid he'll die. Someone said. They felt that Lin Feng would definitely die. Many people were even prepared. As long as Lin Feng was killed, they would immediately take action to snatch the gold foil. Another one who wants to die? Emperor Realm, Cultivation? Barely let me take another look at you. After coming to the bitter cold province, I haven't had a servant who can handle miscellaneous matters for me. You are barely qualified to be my servant. How about this? Kneel on the ground and swear loyalty to me, and I'll spare your life. Chapter 37:14. As soon as Lin Feng said that, the crowd fell silent. Lin Feng was still so arrogant in the face of an Emperor-level expert. This was completely out of everyone's expectations. Even Elder Ghost and Bai Yijian, the two unfathomable figures. They also narrowed their eyes and looked at Lin Feng. I've been roaming the world for millions of years, but I've never seen someone as arrogant and ignorant as you. Dongfang Haojuan looked at Lin Feng with an indifferent expression. He walked towards Lin Feng step by step. He was also a decisive person. Since he had decided to kill Lin Feng, he would definitely not show mercy. Boom! A terrifying aura was emitted from Dongfang Haojuan's body. Dongfang Haojuan did not use any divine ability. He only used his powerful magic power. The magic power lingered around his palm. Dongfang Haojuan clenched his right fist. He directly punched towards Lin Feng. The reason why he did not use any divine ability was naturally because he was extremely confident in himself. After all, he was an Emperor Realm Master, against an Emperor-level expert. If he did not have confidence in himself, then all these years of cultivation would have been in vain. I gave you a chance to live, but you didn't cherish it. If that's the case, I don't mind taking your life, Lin Feng said with an indifferent expression. He directly took a step forward. Then, he punched towards Dongfang Haojuan. Lin Feng punched. The power was also extremely terrifying. Bang! Along with the sound of a violent collision, there was a loud sound. Lin Feng and Dongfang Haojuan's fists collided. A tsunami-like power instantly erupted, producing an extremely terrifying destructive power. Cracks began to appear in the void. The cracks intertwined with one another, forming a destructive pattern that caused the void to collapse. Kacha-kacha sound were heard. Dongfang Haojuan, who had exchanged a punch with Lin Feng, was directly sent flying. Then, in midair, he spat out mouthfuls of blood. His face became as pale as a sheet. Who knew how many of his bones had been broken? Everyone's face was filled with disbelief. An Emperor Realm Master had actually been defeated by Lin Feng's attack. As for Lin Feng, he had only used one move. Wasn't the battle prowess that Lin Feng displayed a little too powerful? How is this possible? Dongfang Haojuan exclaimed in disbelief. He couldn't accept that he had lost to a young human cultivator just like that. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he stepped forward. This time, he used the Devil Ancestor Sacred Fist to attack Dongfang Haojuan. Lin Feng's attacks were relentless. Dongfang Haojuan had just been repelled by Lin Feng. He hadn't even recovered from the shock yet. Lin Feng's attack came again. This made it difficult for him to withstand. He wanted to block Lin Feng's attack, but it was already too late. No! Dongfang Haojuan cried out in horror. Kid, let's see if you dare to kill him. Baijian's face suddenly darkened as he couldn't help but shout coldly. He directly threatened Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng didn't care about Baijian's threat at all. Bang! The Devil Ancestor's Sacred Fist was condensed and directly bombarded Dongfang Haojuan's body. Dongfang Haojuan's body directly exploded. An Emperor Realm Master was killed by Lin Feng, just like that. Dead. Dongfang Haojuan was an Emperor Realm Master, but he died just like that. It's really unbelievable. I can't believe that all of this is real. An Emperor Realm Master was killed just like that, and the cultivator who killed an Emperor Realm Master is so young. It's like a fairy tale. The cultivators exclaimed one after another. Even now, they were still in deep shock and couldn't recover from it. Kid, you're courting death. Bai Yijian shouted angrily as he jumped out and raised his hand to slap Lin Feng. Although this person was an expert in Sword Dao, his attainments and divine abilities were also extremely high, and the power of his divine abilities was very powerful. However, Lin Feng was completely fearless. Facing Bai Yijian's attack, Lin Feng slapped out with a backhand. Bang! His tyrannical palm directly collided with Bai Yijian. Thump, 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 thump. Both sides retreated several steps in succession. They were evenly matched. Oh my god, this person can actually exchange a palm with a Saint Emperor Realm Master like Bai Yijian and not be at a disadvantage. Isn't this too terrifying? Who the hell is he? Why is he so powerful? At such a young age, he already has such combat strength. How did he cultivate? Questions appeared in everyone's heart one after another. Everyone was extremely curious about Lin Feng's identity and origin. However, no one knew Lin Feng. Everything about Lin Feng. To everyone, it was destined to be full of secrets. You're just an early stage Saint Emperor. I'll kill you. It's as easy as flipping my hand. Lin Feng looked at Bai Yijian indifferently. Brat, you're really arrogant. This seat wants to see if you have the ability. Bai Yijian looked coldly at Lin Feng. The immortal sword on his back flew out and floated above him. It buzzed. Good. Then I'll take your life as well. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he directly took out 3 stone swords. He confronted Bai Yijian with equal harshness. Lin Feng seemed arrogant, but cultivators who knew Lin Feng's true combat strength. Only then did they know. Lin Feng wasn't arrogant at all. It was simply domineering. The two of you, this is not the place to fight. With the strength of the two of you, once you start fighting, you will definitely alarm some terrifying creatures. If those terrifying creatures are attracted, it will be a disaster for us. Seeing that Lin Feng and Bai Yijian were about to fight, Elder Gui hurriedly came out to smooth things over. Both of them couldn't help but frown slightly. It was indeed the same as what Elder Gui said. The endless ghost sand was too dangerous. It was indeed not suitable for a confrontation between Saint Emperors. If they left the endless ghost sand, they could fight without any scruples. I'll remember you. Bai Yijian coldly looked at Lin Feng, then took back the immortal sword and quickly left with the people around him. Lin Feng also put away the 3 stone swords. Brother Lin, big brother Lin, you're really awesome. I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Gui Jianqiu grinned and said. These days, he got along well with Lin Feng, so the two were already quite familiar with each other. As for the rest, they didn't have much interaction with Lin Feng. Those cultivators who originally wanted to make a move on Lin Feng were all scared. Fortunately, they didn't make a move. Otherwise, they would have died without a burial place. Who would have thought that Lin Feng was such a seemingly harmless young cultivator? He was actually terrifying to this level, even if one looked at the universe. Chapter 37:15. Lin Feng and the others didn't stay in the temples and quickly left. Now, everyone was in awe of Lin Feng. The battle strength that Lin Feng displayed was too powerful, and the strong, no matter where they went, would be respected. This was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. In the next few days, under the lead of Elder Ghost, everyone found a few secret places one after another. They found a lot of good things. The female cultivator called Nangong Mu obtained an ancient stone artifact. That stone artifact was definitely a top-notch treasure that made people covet it. The rest, they all had their gains. Some people obtained powerful magic treasures. Some people obtained powerful divine ability inheritances or some other treasures. Lin Feng obtained a fragment of the world tree. This fragment of the world tree contained a majestic vitality. Lin Feng couldn't help but be extremely excited. In the past, the world tree was one of the 3 divine trees in the world. After the world tree was shattered, it was difficult for future generations to find the world tree. But Lin Feng obtained a fragment of the world tree by chance. Then, he cultivated the world tree sapling. The world tree sapling could continuously devour the providence of heaven and earth. In this providence of heaven and earth, Lin Feng's body was strengthened by the strength. Why was Lin Feng's providence so strong? Of course, there are many reasons, but the world tree sapling absorbed the providence of heaven and earth and fed it back to Lin Feng. It was definitely an extremely important factor. The world tree sapling was extremely extraordinary. As it continued to grow, it also had a strong defense and attack power. Lin Feng naturally wanted the world tree sapling to grow quickly. But how could this be easy? However, now, after obtaining this fragment of the world tree sapling would definitely be able to grow again. On this day, Lin Feng and the others were attacked by an endless ghost sand creature. The endless ghost sand creature that attacked them had a scorpion body with 3 heads. The middle head was a giant scorpion head. The head on the left was that of a lion. The head on the right was a ferocious, ugly, and terrifying devil head. It was unknown what kind of race this creature belonged to, but its battle prowess was almost heaven-defying. Everyone joined forces to fight against this terrifying creature, but they were no match for it at all. Whoosh! Light flashed. The scorpion tail, flickering with a blue luster and containing a lethal poison, circled behind Incursion and stabbed towards her. Incursion was the typical cute type of beauty. He was usually more active. After sensing the terrifying aura behind them, Incursion hurriedly turned to look. Then, he saw the scorpion tail coming at him. He wanted to avoid the terrifying attack of the scorpion tail, but it was already too late. She was so scared that her face turned pale. The stinger at the end of the scorpion's tail was about to pierce Incursion's body. At this moment, a figure appeared at lightning speed. It was Lin Feng. He held the black dragon sword in his hand and directly slashed at the stinger, causing it to deviate. Incursion came back to her senses and looked at Lin Feng gratefully. Then, she quickly retreated and distanced herself from the terrifying creature. This battle, in the end, it ended with the loss of 3 people. The terrifying creature didn't chase after Lin Feng and the others. Instead, it wrapped up the 3 corpses. Then, it went into the desert to enjoy the delicious food. Night came. Everyone sat cross-legged in the light circle formed by the silver powder to rest. Incursion came to Lin Feng's side and thanked Lin Feng. "Thank you for saving us, young master. If not for you, this time we would have been doomed. I will remember your kindness in my heart." "It's nothing. Fairy, you're welcome," Lin Feng said. He didn't intend to continue communicating with Incursion, although Incursion was very charming. But now, Lin Feng didn't intend to provoke women. He wanted to improve his cultivation. Rustling sounds could be heard from afar. Fire snakes drilled out from the ground. Fire snakes. Spirit snakes born from the flames. This was an extremely terrifying creature that contained powerful perception and attack power. In the desert, there were many snakes, scorpions, centipedes, lizards, and other creatures. There were all kinds of poisonous snakes. These days, Lin Feng and the others didn't know how many kinds they had seen. They couldn't remember it all. However, the number of poisonous snakes they had seen before wasn't particularly large, and these fire snakes in front of them were in groups. There were too many of them. They're crawling over. A cultivator pointed to the fire snakes in the distance and couldn't help but say in a deep voice. Then someone said, "Don't worry. These guys definitely won't be able to discover us." Many people in the team had the same view as this cultivator, because many terrifying creatures had appeared before. Those terrifying creatures passed by them, but they didn't discover them. This time, facing the fire snakes, everyone naturally thought so too. However, this time, everyone guessed wrong. Those fire snakes' perception was too strong. They actually surrounded the place where Lin Feng and the others were. The silver powder emitted bursts of silver light, which intertwined with each other. It formed a silver light shield, and that silver light shield, it blocked the fire serpents on the outside. However, those fire snakes had already confirmed the existence of Lin Feng and the others. The fire serpents that blotted out the sky and covered the earth rushed towards the silver light barrier. Crack, crack, under the attack of the fire snakes. The silver light shield suddenly produced cracking sounds. Dense cracks appeared. The silver light shield. It would shatter at any time. What do we do now? Many people's faces were as pale as paper when they saw this scene. Everyone looked at Elder Ghost. The fire snake's attack power is extremely strong, and they contain poison. They can spit out all kinds of poison to attack the enemy. We can't go head-to-head with these fire snakes. Break out. We must break out. There's no time to lose. Let's break out now. Elder Ghost couldn't help but shout in a deep voice. Hearing that, everyone didn't dare to hesitate. They all took out their defensive Dharma treasures to protect their bodies. Then, everyone attacked together and began to attack the fire snakes around them. Clang, 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 clang. When the Dharma treasures in everyone's hands bombarded the fire snakes, the sound of collision was instantly heard. It was as if they had bombarded a peerless divine weapon. They couldn't kill those fire snakes at all, and those fire snakes directly spat out a large amount of poison. When the poison was sprinkled on everyone's defensive Dharma treasures, sizzling sounds of burning could be heard. Everyone's defensive Dharma treasures were corroded by the fire snake's poison. Chapter 37:16. The venom of the fire snakes was extremely terrifying. It made people extremely fearful. Some cultivators' defensive magic treasures were quickly destroyed by the venom of the fire snakes. Without the protection of the defensive magic treasures, those cultivators were simply exposed in front of the fire snakes like live targets. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A large number of fire snakes. They directly pounced towards those cultivators. Those cultivators were unable to withstand the fire snake's attack and were instantly killed by the fire snakes. This was the terrifying part of the fire snakes. Highly poisonous, powerful attack power, and it was a habit of living in groups. It could simply deal with any enemy. It could cause a near-fatal blow. The current situation was naturally extremely bad for Lin Feng and the others. Even the defensive light shield formed by Lin Feng's heavenly mystery pagoda was corroded. Moreover, the defensive light shield formed by the heavenly mystery pagoda had the possibility of shattering at any time. From this, it could be seen how fierce the venom of these fire snakes was. Lin Feng simply took out his Dominator's armor. The Dominator's armor was strong enough to withstand the corrosion of the venom. Lin Feng took the lead to tear open a passage and then quickly rushed out. The rest followed behind Lin Feng and rushed out of the fire snake's encirclement. This time, they lost another 6 or 7 cultivators. Many people's faces were extremely gloomy. "Look around. The situation doesn't seem right," someone said in a deep voice. Everyone looked around and found that something was wrong. A large amount of ghost chi filled the air. It surrounded Lin Feng and the others. The ghost chi was eerie and terrifying. The endless ghost sand at night was an extremely terrifying world. It was very likely that there would be many terrifying existences that would make people tremble and fear. No one knew what terrifying things were hidden in the violently rolling ghost chi. From afar, everyone could even hear the sound of crying. It was as if a malicious spirit was crying. "What Buddhist magic treasures do you have? Hurry up and take them out. Buddhist magic treasures can ward off evil," Gue Jinsho said in a deep voice. He hurriedly took out his Buddhist magic treasure. It was a string of Buddhist beads. The others also took out their Buddhist magic treasures. Lin Feng took out a demon subduing pestle. It was also a powerful Buddhist magic treasure. The ghost chi quickly enveloped everyone. Very soon, someone let out a blood-curdling scream. Because the ghost chi covered the sky and the sun, everyone's vision was blocked. Therefore, he couldn't see what exactly had happened. But obviously, it was the cultivator who let out the blood-curdling scream. At this moment, most likely, he had already suffered a calamity. The situation was extremely bad. Crash. Suddenly, the sound of chains colliding could be heard from the ghostly aura. The next moment, a chain moved towards Lin Feng to bind him. Lin Feng swung the demon, subduing pestle at the chain. Clang! The pestle collided with the chains. The sound of metal clashing against metal rang out. The chain was covered in runes. It was an extremely rare Yin Ghost rune. This was a rune that only existed in the underworld. It was an extremely rare rune among the nether runes. As such, that chain was incomparably terrifying. The Buddhist light from Lin Feng's demon subduing pestle was dissolved by the Yin Ghost runes. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. The chain continued to attack Lin Feng. Lin Feng waved the demon subduing pestle and swept it at the chain. Clang! 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 3 consecutive strikes. The demon subduing pestle collided with the chain. Crack! Crack! Lin Feng's demon subduing pestle actually broke. Lin Feng's face revealed an extremely solemn expression. Even now, he still couldn't see what was attacking him from within the ghost chi. The only thing he could see was that extremely strange chain. The power of that chain was so powerful and terrifying. It was simply shocking and moving. Clang! The chain wrapped around him again. He saw that the chain was actually growing longer and longer. Very soon, it was already hundreds of meters long. The chain intertwined into a huge chain net. It was like an inescapable net. It enveloped Lin Feng. After feeling the power of that huge chain net, Lin Feng's face couldn't help but reveal a solemn expression, because he found out, when the huge chain net enveloped him, his own magic power, it was almost unable to operate. The situation, it could be said to be extremely bad, seeing that Lin Feng was about to fall into danger. At this moment, Lin Feng took out a kasaya. It was the kasaya that was draped over the old monk skeleton in the 7th floor of the Chonlu Demon Palace. This kasaya, it was definitely a supreme treasure. When Lin Feng put that kasaya on his body, all of a sudden, the Buddha's light shone. An old Buddha appeared in the Buddha's light. That old Buddha, standing in the void, his palms were pressed together. He chanted the Buddhist scriptures. The world was filled with endless Buddha's voice. The old Buddha's voice merged with the Buddha's light. It turned into runes. Those densely packed runes. They flew towards the surroundings. Those runes, they were extremely powerful. They collided with the huge chain net. The huge chain net, it directly shattered. The Buddha's light illuminated the world. A large amount of ghost chi was directly evaporated. Screech, a sharp and ear-piercing cry, came out from the ghost chi. It was like a scream of horror from a malicious spirit. Then, the rolling ghost chi in the surroundings began to quickly dissipate. In the blink of an eye, all the ghost chi disappeared without a trace. Huff, huff, huff. Many people were panting violently, full of expressions of having survived a disaster. Thank you, fellow Taoist. Thank you, young master. Everyone thanked Lin Feng one after another. Everyone knew that if it weren't for Lin Feng, it would have been too dangerous just now. It's nothing. No need to thank me, Lin Feng said, and then put away the kasaya. This time, the team lost another 4 people. The rest of the people left in a hurry. This night was not peaceful. The team encountered danger several times. But fortunately, dawn finally arrived, and everyone could finally let out a long sigh of relief. The boundless ghost sand is getting more and more dangerous. Let's go back now, someone suggested. During the time they entered the boundless ghost sand, the team had already lost half of its members. And many people, they had also gained a lot of benefits, so they wanted to leave the boundless ghost sand. They didn't want to continue taking risks. All right, Elder Ghost nodded. Lin Feng felt that it was a pity, because he was unable to find the abyss that buried the fire phoenix. Countless secrets, they were all in that abyss. Of course, Lin Feng also knew that it was easier said than done to find that abyss. The team turned back. At noon, the black sand that filled the sky swept through the world. It surrounded Lin Feng and the others. And within the sandstorm, there was demonic chi rolling. A gloomy voice. It came from within the sandstorm. Not good. It's the Sand Clan. Seeing the sandstorm that engulfed the world, Elder Ghost's expression suddenly changed. At this moment, a head was thrown out from the sandstorm. It directly landed in front of Lin Feng and the others. That head. Chapter 37:17. Lin Feng had already seen Bai Yijin's power before. How terrifying was a sage emperor-level expert. Now, he was actually killed. It was really unimaginable. Therefore, when everyone saw Bai Yijin's head, everyone's expression changed. Since the other party could even kill Bai Yijin, there was no need to talk about them. Sand Clan people, what is their origin? Lin Feng looked at Gue Jiancho and asked in a low voice. Gue Jiancho looked like he wanted to cry, but had no tears. He said, "The Sand Clan people are a mysterious race that lives in the endless ghost sand. They are also the only race in the endless ghost sand. It is said that this race has an agreement with the various terrifying creatures in the endless ghost sand. Therefore, those terrifying creatures will not attack the Sand Clan people. This race is extremely terrifying and powerful. However, they have always lived in the depths of the endless ghost sand and rarely come out. No one knows why these people came out of the endless ghost sand. Now that they have encountered the Sand Clan people, this is troublesome. Gui Jian Cho did not say much. Now he was worried. All his thoughts were on how to escape. You outsiders should not trespass into the endless ghost sand. A cold voice came from the sandstorm. Then, a white bone throne flew out from the sandstorm. On the white bone throne, a woman was sitting on it. This was an extremely beautiful woman. Her beauty was simply suffocating. Slender and charming figure. She had a beautiful face, charming eyes. Every move had a charm that could make people unable to help but suffocate. This was definitely a goddess-level female cultivator that would make people gasp in amazement no matter where she went. Her appearance even surpassed Nangong Mu, and Kursin, and Shangguan Yao, these three peerless beauties. However, she was sitting on a white bone throne. Although she was beautiful, but under the contrast of the white bone throne, let her look, there was a feeling of a femme fatale. It made people shudder. So it is Queen Lilicia. We have mistakenly entered the endless ghost sand. We have no intention of offending you. We will leave the endless ghost sand now. Please forgive us, the great Queen Lilicia. Elder Gui bowed and said. Obviously, he was incomparably afraid of this Queen Lilicia. Now, he hoped that the other party would be lenient. Are you from the Gui clan? Queen Lilicia snorted coldly and asked. That's right. Elder Ghost said. In the past, your clan had some dealings with our Sand Clan. You can take that member of the Gui clan with you and leave. Queen Lilicia said coldly. Go! Elder Ghost grabbed Demon's Grimace and flew outside. The sandstorm parted. He released Senior Ghost and Gui Jianchou. As for the others, they were all trapped here. Everyone's expression became extremely unsightly. This Queen Lilicia was even able to kill by Yijian. This was enough to show how terrifying this person was. Now he was trapped here. It would be difficult for him to escape this calamity. Many people felt incomparably regretful, feeling that they should not have come here. However, what was the use of regretting? Because there was no medicine for regret in this world. Kill them all. Queen Lilicia waved her jade-like hand and then gave the order. The sandstorm quickly swept towards Lin Feng and the others. Let's fight them to the death. Many people gritted their teeth. They took out their magic treasures and quickly rushed outside, wanting to break out of the encirclement. But it was easier said than done. There were Sand Clan people hidden in the sandstorm, and those Sand Clan people were very terrifying. They could control the power of the desert and condense all kinds of powerful attacks. They launched a powerful attack on those who wanted to escape. The cultivators who wanted to escape were stopped one after another. At the same time, Lin Feng also chose a direction to break out of the encirclement. Huge sand dragons condensed one after another. It was a salon. They all rushed towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng raised his right hand and slapped out. Bang! One by one, the sand dragons were smashed by Lin Feng. Then, Lin Feng rushed into the sandstorm. Die! Dozens of strong cultivators of the Sand Clan who were hiding in the sandstorm threw themselves at Lin Feng. Endless domineering aura. The domineering aura in Lin Feng's body was released. It directly enveloped dozens of Sand Clan experts. In the next moment, bang, 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 sounds of explosions. Endless sounds could be heard. Those dozens of Sand Clan experts were instantly killed by Lin Feng. And Lin Feng rushed out of the sandstorm. HM? Queen Lilicia was slightly surprised. Then, her gaze turned cold. The white bone throne she sat on quickly flew out. She quickly caught up to Lin Feng, who had just rushed out of the sandstorm. I didn't expect you to have some ability. Seeing how handsome you are, your cultivation and talent are quite good. This queen has decided to take you in as a male servant. Now, kneel down and swear to this queen. This queen will spare your life. Queen Lilicia looked at Lin Feng with interest. She stuck out her tongue, licking her red lips. This action, it was full of temptation. TSK, TSK. I also want to take you in as a female servant. Swear to be loyal to me and become my female servant. When the time comes, this young master will take good care of you. Lin Feng looked at Queen Lalicia from head to toe. Queen Lalicia's face instantly turned cold. She was strong. She was high and mighty. Someone actually dared to say that they would take her in as a female servant. How could Queen Lalicia accept this? She was quite angry now, in her eyes, flashing with dense, killing intent. But, very quickly, Queen Lalicia suppressed the killing intent in her heart. Originally, you deserve to die 10,000 times. However, this queen doesn't want to kill you now, because this queen feels that you are quite interesting. If I kill you directly, it would be a pity. Later, this queen will suppress you. This queen has 1,000 ways to make you kneel in front of this queen and beg to become this queen's male servant. Queen Lalicia's voice fell. Then, she suddenly patted the white bone throne below her. Instantly, in a white bone throne, endless fiend ghost chi filled the air. Those fiend ghost chi. It was simply covering the sky and the sun. Dong, dong, dong. In fiend ghost chi, the sound of war drums could be heard. One could vaguely see. In the fiend ghost chi, densely packed, terrifying creatures appeared. Those were all ghost soldiers and ghost generals. Kill! Endless ghost soldiers and ghost generals directly roared, crushing the sky. They charged towards Lin Feng. Feeling the terrifying aura emitted by the army, Lin Feng's expression couldn't help but change suddenly. That white bone throne. It was at least an immortal artifact, level demonic treasure. Only then could it release such a terrifying attack. A good man doesn't fight with a woman. I won't lower myself to your level. Lin Feng curled his lips and said to Queen Lalicia. Chapter 37:18. You can't run away. Queen Lalicia looked coldly at Lin Feng. Towards Lin Feng, she was gnashing her teeth in hatred, because Lin Feng was the first person who dared to be so impudent and rude to her. Queen Lalicia quickly chased after Lin Feng. Her white bone throne was truly extraordinary, and its speed was unbelievably fast. Lin Feng's speed was so fast, but he was still unable to shake off Queen Lalicia. From this, it could be seen. Queen Lalicia's speed was unbelievably fast. Lin Feng turned to look at Queen Lalicia and then said, "Why are you always following me? Do you want to be my maid that much?" Queen Lalicia said, "Yes, I want to be your maid. Hurry up and stop. Take me in as your maid." When she said this, Queen Lalicia had an expression of gnashing teeth. She wanted to slap Lin Feng to death. Lin Feng naturally did not believe Queen Lalicia's words. Queen Lalicia chased after Lin Feng. In the end, the two of them fought above an oasis. Lin Feng was wearing the ruler's armor. He was multitasking. All kinds of powerful magic treasures were taken out, and they attacked Queen Lalicia. After seeing Lin Feng controlling so many treasures, Queen Lalicia said in surprise, "My manservant, you really have a lot of treasures. But don't worry, when I catch you later, this queen doesn't want your treasures. This queen values you. Taking in a manservant like you is really something that gives me a sense of accomplishment." Lin Feng said, "Taking a maid like you, I want to do it 100 times, 100 times." At first, Queen Lalicia did not understand what Lin Feng meant by 100 times, 100 times. However, she was an extremely intelligent person. She quickly came back to her senses. He understood what Lin Feng meant when he said 100 times. Queen Lalicia sneered and said, "My manservant, you're quite bold. Just wait and see how this queen will teach you a lesson when she catches you." Bang! Lin Feng and Queen Lalicia began to fight. He used all of his means. However, it was a pity. He was still no match for Queen Lalicia. Lin Feng felt that this Queen Lalicia was even stronger than Shang Juji, who was at the pinnacle of the Sage Emperor realm. But obviously, Queen Lalicia's strength shouldn't have broken through to the Emperor Lord realm. If he broke through to the Emperor Lord realm, he had already taken him down. Lin Feng was defeated in this battle. However, it wouldn't be easy for Queen Lalicia to capture Lin Feng. One fled while the other chased. Lin Feng lost his way in the boundless ghost sand because he lacked understanding of the boundless ghost sand. Queen Lilicia was more familiar with the endless ghost sand. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't continue to run in this direction. If you continue to run forward, you will reach a very terrifying area. Queen Lilicia coldly said. Lin Feng was shocked. It seemed that even Queen Lilicia was afraid of this place. This endless ghost sand was truly strange. Even a race like the sand race that lived in the endless ghost sand couldn't set foot in this place. It was hard to imagine. Within the endless ghost sand, just how many secrets were hidden here. If you don't chase me, I naturally won't continue to run deeper. Lin Feng said. Then if you agree to be my manservant, I won't chase you anymore. Queen Lilicia coldly said. Lin Feng rolled his eyes. This woman was truly bewitched. He no longer cared about Queen Lilicia and flew deeper into the sand. Lin Feng realized. The deeper he went, the hotter the temperature became. The endless ghost sand had indeed undergone some changes. Escape to the ends of the earth. This queen will catch you. Wait until this queen catches you. This queen will properly torture you, or else I won't be able to dispel the hatred in my heart. Queen Lilicia fiercely said. She had chased Lin Feng for so long, and her mood couldn't help but become extremely irritable. Moreover, she was so powerful. Before this, during the battle with Lin Feng, she actually couldn't take down Lin Feng. This was hard for Queen Lilicia to accept. 100 times, 100 times, Lin Feng replied from the front. Bastard. Queen Lilicia, who was already very angry, after hearing Lin Feng's words, her face became more and more ugly. She put away the white bone throne. Then she personally chased after Lin Feng. A divine rainbow had appeared beneath Queen Lilicia's feet. She stepped on the divine rainbow. She chased after Lin Feng. Fast, fast, fast. It was so fast that it was unbelievable. Seeing the speed that Queen Lilicia displayed, Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. In the end, above a mountain range, Lin Feng and Queen Lilicia once again fought. The two sides were locked in a fierce battle. Lin Feng used all his methods, but he was still defeated by Queen Lilicia. He was sent flying by Queen Lilicia's palm. His body fell down. This woman is too abnormal. I'm afraid she has 1 foot in the Emperor Master Realm. Lin Feng's face was extremely gloomy. Queen Lilicia's figure flashed and disappeared in an instant. In the next moment, she appeared in front of Lin Feng and punched towards Lin Feng. Heaven-mending technique. Shua. Lin Feng also disappeared. At the critical moment, the heaven-mending technique played a huge role. When Lin Feng appeared, he had already arrived behind Queen Lilicia. The power of 6 times the arm of dragon and elephant instantly erupted. Done. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. If this punch landed on Queen Lilicia's body, Queen Lilicia would be seriously injured even if she didn't die. Bang! Accompanied by the sound of a violent collision, Lin Feng's incomparably tyrannical punch landed on Queen Lilicia's body. Queen Lilicia's body instantly shattered. Not good. Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. What he had just shattered was only an afterimage of Queen Lilicia. Queen Lilicia's speed was too fast, so much so that when she disappeared, there was still an afterimage. Queen Lilicia must have an extremely deep understanding of the Tao of space. Otherwise, her speed wouldn't be so fast. Lin Feng used the space travel method, wanting to quickly leave. However, it was already too late. In the void, a rope flew out from the ground. It directly wrapped around Lin Feng. Immortal binding rope. This treasure was actually the immortal binding rope. Back then, Lin Feng also obtained such a treasure. However, the immortal binding rope he obtained was an imitation. It wasn't the real immortal binding rope. But Lin Feng felt that. The immortal binding rope that Queen Lilicia took out seemed to be the real one. Because Lin Feng felt that. This immortal binding rope. It was actually an immortal artifact level treasure. Queen Lilicia was actually in control of 2 immortal items. There were countless secrets and treasures hidden in the endless ghost sand. She had most likely found these two immortal artifacts in the Boundless Ghost Sand's secret vault. Hee hee, you've been caught by me. Chapter 37:19. Lin Feng really wanted to cry, but had no tears. If he was caught by Queen Militia, what kind of heinous things would this woman do to him? It was simply unimaginable. Misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. Lin Feng said with a smile. Misunderstanding? What misunderstanding? Queen Militia glared fiercely at Lin Feng and said, Now that you have become my prisoner, do you know how this queen will deal with you later? Queen Militia directly revealed a devilish smile when she said this. Could it be that it want to? Lin Feng looked at Queen Militia with a frightened gaze. Seeing Lin Feng's frightened expression, the smile on Queen Militia's mouth became wider. She liked to see Lin Feng's frightened look. I already knew that you are only good at talking. Now you know fear? I'm afraid it's too late. Queen Militia snorted and said. This woman was beautiful. When she was slightly angry, she was so beautiful that it was suffocating. 100 times will kill me, Lin Feng said. Queen Militia was stunned when she heard Lin Feng's words. She completely did not understand what Lin Feng's words meant. But Queen Militia quickly remembered what Lin Feng had said before. 100 times, 100 times. She finally understood the meaning of Lin Feng's words. Queen Militia gritted her teeth and said, You shameless guy, eat this queen's fist first. As her voice faded, Queen Militia's fist hammered towards Lin Feng. This woman's attack was very vicious. This punch, it was powerful and heavy. The power was shocking. Anyone who received such a powerful punch would definitely not feel good. Queen Militia's powerful punch was about to hit Lin Feng's body. However, at this moment, a rumbling sound could be heard. The ground below Lin Feng and Queen Militia directly collapsed. A huge abyss appeared. Then, Lin Feng and Queen Militia fell into the abyss. Lin Feng hurriedly tried to break free from the immortal binding rope. However, no matter how hard he tried, but in the end, they all ended in failure. There was no way to break free from the immortal binding rope. Once he was tied up by the immortal binding rope, he would be tied up forever, unless the owner of the immortal binding rope chanted an incantation. He took the initiative to remove the immortal binding rope. Only then would the cultivator be able to escape the danger of being bound by the immortal binding rope. However, it was impossible for Queen Militia to let him go. As such, Lin Feng didn't even think about it. However, Lin Feng wasn't completely helpless against the immortal binding rope. He began to chant the incantation for the great fate technique. O mighty power of fate, please bestow me with the power to undo the immortal binding rope binding me, Lin Feng said. The power of destiny descended and struck the immortal binding rope. The immortal binding rope that was originally wrapped around Lin Feng's body. He quickly loosened his grip. After Lin Feng got rid of the immortal binding rope, he quickly retreated and distanced himself from Queen Militia. At this moment, only then did Queen Militia react. Lin Feng actually got rid of the immortal binding rope. How did you do it? Queen Militia looked at Lin Feng in disbelief. She knew how powerful the immortal binding rope was. Once bound by the immortal binding rope, there was no way to get rid of the immortal binding rope. However, Lin Feng did it. It was shocking. It's just an immortal binding rope. Naturally, it's not difficult for me. Lin Feng couldn't help but curl his lips and say. After hearing Lin Feng's words, Queen Militia immediately curled her lips. Lin Feng's words were full of pretentiousness. She could naturally hear it. If I can catch you once, this queen can catch you a second time. Queen Militia said coldly. Then, this woman, she rushed towards Lin Feng, wanting to attack Lin Feng again. However, at this moment, a fire phoenix, it flew out from the abyss. After seeing the fire phoenix, Lin Feng and Queen Militia couldn't help but be shocked. That fire phoenix, Queen Militia had never seen it before. The reason why she was shocked was because the fire phoenix was too rare. And here, a fire phoenix actually appeared. It was really shocking. The reason why Lin Feng was shocked was because the fire phoenix in front of him was the fire phoenix that he had seen in the dream before. The fire phoenix flew to Lin Feng's side. It looked at Lin Feng. Its eyes seemed to be telling Lin Feng, "Let Lin Feng jump onto its back." Lin Feng didn't hesitate. He quickly jumped onto the fire phoenix's back. Then, the fire phoenix flapped its wings. It flew down the abyss. Only then did Queen Lilicia come back to her senses. Queen Lilicia snorted coldly. Then it flew down the abyss. The dream has reappeared. Sometimes I really can't distinguish between the dream and reality. Which one is real? Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. The fire phoenix's speed was extremely fast. Soon it rushed to the bottom of the abyss. The bottom of the abyss was connected to an underground world. Lin Feng still remembered. There seemed to be a world of fire in the deepest position. At that time, the fire phoenix took him into the world of fire. Then, he and the fire phoenix were burned to ashes. And Lin Feng still clearly remembered that there seemed to be something in the depths of the world of fire. It was the flame released by that mysterious thing that burned Lin Feng and the fire phoenix to death. Lin Feng was now looking forward to it. What exactly was that thing? Could he finally see that thing? Not long after, Lin Feng saw the world of fire in the depths. The fire phoenix flew into the world of fire. Everything was exactly the same as what he had experienced in the dream. This is the legendary place where the fire phoenix fell. Queen Lilicia chased after him. Looking at the burning world of fire, she couldn't help but reveal a surprised expression. In the past, she had heard about the fire phoenix before. It was said that it was an extremely ancient fire phoenix. Moreover, it was the fallen fire phoenix. It seemed to be in possession of some treasure of the Phoenix clan. As the fire phoenix fell, that treasure, it also disappeared. Whoosh! Queen Lilicia also entered the world of fire. She followed behind the fire phoenix at a leisurely pace. She wanted to follow the fire phoenix to see what was in the depths of the world of fire. Screech! The fire phoenix carried Lin Feng and flew to the depths of the world of fire. After arriving here, the fire phoenix let out a shrill cry. Then, the fire phoenix's body automatically dissipated. Lin Feng stood above the world of fire. Vaguely, he saw the depths of the world of fire. There was a fiery red skeleton. Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. Chapter 37:20. This was the place where the fire phoenix fell. The skeleton of the fire phoenix should be here. Lin Feng felt that. That fiery red skeleton was the skeleton of the fire phoenix. Lin Feng quickly rushed toward the fiery red skeleton. Very soon, he came to the skeleton of the fire phoenix. Buzz! From the skeleton of the fire phoenix, a fiery red light directly shot into the sky and entered Lin Feng's mind. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt that the world was spinning. He felt that he had been pulled into a mysterious world. That mysterious world, it was boundless, but there was nothing. A short time after, Lin Feng heard the cry of a phoenix. He gazed into the distance and saw a fire phoenix flying out from the depths of the forest. That fire phoenix stopped in front of Lin Feng. "Can you please help me?" After seeing Lin Feng, the fire phoenix directly said, "How can I help you?" Lin Feng asked doubtfully. "I fell here, but the Phoenix clan's Phoenix Grimoire was buried in this place with my fall. Without the Phoenix Grimoire, the Phoenix clan is destined to decline. I hope that you can take the Phoenix Grimoire that flew into your body to find the Phoenix clan and give it to my clan," the fire phoenix said. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter in his heart. The Phoenix clan seemed to have declined a long time ago. Lin Feng had never seen a pure-blooded phoenix. At most, he had seen descendants with the Phoenix bloodline. For example, Shui Yao and Fire Dance were both descendants of the Phoenix clan. However, they actually had little to do with the pure-blooded Phoenix clan. And obviously, the fire phoenix in front of him, it was an extremely ancient pure-blooded phoenix. Of course, the universe was vast. Perhaps between heaven and earth, there were still pure-blooded phoenixes. It was just that he didn't know. "May I ask where Senior's clan members are?" Lin Feng asked. Undying Realm. Ancient Demon Realm. Phoenix Mountain. Fire Phoenix said. Lin Feng was just about to go to the Undying Realm. In the future, he could also go to the Phoenix Mountain and send the Phoenix Grimoire back. This was as easy as lifting a finger. Good. I promise you, Senior, I will head to the Undying Realm. And at that time, I will definitely return the Phoenix Grimoire to the Phoenix clan. Lin Feng said. Thank you. In order to repay your kindness, I left behind a drop of Phoenix's precious blood. That drop of Phoenix blood is also in your body. You can refine it to increase your cultivation. Fire Phoenix said. Brat, wake up, wake up. Right at this moment, Lin Feng seemed to hear someone calling out to him. The next moment, Lin Feng's primordial spirit returned from the illusory world constructed by the Fire Phoenix. He came to his senses. Then, he saw Queen Militia looking at him like a little devil. Queen Militia flew over when she was pulled into the illusory spirit by the Fire Phoenix. Then, he used the immortal binding rope to tie himself up again. When he thought of this, Lin Feng even wanted to cry. Seeing that Lin Feng had woken up, Queen Militia sneered and asked, You just entered a spiritual world? Could it be that the Fire Phoenix's skeleton pulled you into a spiritual world? Tell me, what did the Fire Phoenix say to you? It had to be said that this Queen Militia was an extremely smart person. She had actually guessed everything that Lin Feng had experienced. Lin Feng said, Fire Phoenix told me that my wife would tie me up with a rope later. Now it seems that my wife is you. What a match made in heaven. You actually dare to talk nonsense. I think you're asking for a beating. Queen Militia glared fiercely at Lin Feng, and then threw a punch at Lin Feng. Lin Feng grimaced in pain and said, Hitting is affection, scolding is love. If you don't hit, you won't be affectionate. Shameless. You're so shameless. This queen has never seen someone as shameless as you. Queen Militia looked fiercely at Lin Feng. Lin Feng said, How am I shameless? What I said was the truth. I know what the queen is thinking. The queen is chasing me relentlessly. Isn't it because she likes me? You want to marry me, right? All right, I agree to this matter. Shut up. Queen Militia screamed in anger at Lin Feng. With a wave of her right hand, a restriction flew out. It directly sealed Lin Feng's lips. Whoa! Lin Feng cried out, but unfortunately, he was sealed by Queen Militia and could not make any sound. You will be this queen's manservant from now on. This queen will take you away and teach you a good lesson. I will let you know how to be obedient as a manservant. Queen Militia grabbed Lin Feng's collar. Then, she lifted Lin Feng up. Whoosh! Next, Queen Militia quickly flew outside. Lin Feng really wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Himself, it seemed that he had never been in such a sorry state before. He had actually become someone else's prisoner. After leaving the abyss, Queen Militia brought Lin Feng to the Sandrace's land. The Sandrace's land was located in the northwest of the Endless Ghost Sand. 3 days later, Lin Feng saw a huge oasis. That oasis was like a huge lake. Around the oasis, stone houses were built one after another. It seemed that the Sand Race people should be living in those stone houses. The Sand Race was built around the oasis. The Sand Race's land was scattered in picturesque disorder and was very beautiful. There are still some differences between the Sand Race and the human race. The Sand Race women's skin was especially delicate. In between their eyebrows, there was a beauty mole. On the other hand, the men of the Sand Race had bronze skin. In between their eyebrows, there was a brand that looked like the word sand. Queen. Seeing Queen Militia return, many Sand Race people bowed to her. At the same time, everyone looked at Lin Feng curiously. They were extremely curious about Lin Feng's identity. Because the Sand Race people would not bring prisoners of war back to their land. If they captured prisoners of war, they would usually kill them on the way back. And now, the fact that Queen Militia had brought back a prisoner of war caused many people to speculate. Queen Militia nodded to the Sand Race people. She then brought Lin Feng and flew towards the depths of the Sand Race's land. Along the way, there were people who greeted Queen Militia. At this moment, more than 10 elders of the sand race flew over. The skinny elder who was the leader said with a dark expression, "Oh, great Queen Lilicia, you're back. May I know who this human is? Queen Lilicia, don't you know that we, the sand race, do not allow prisoners of war to be brought back to our land? If that's the case, the location of our land might be revealed. As the queen of the sand race, how can your majesty do something that would harm the interests of the sand race?" The skinny old man immediately questioned Queen Lilicia. Lin Feng could not help but raise his eyebrows. Seemed like within the sand race. Chapter 37:21. Where there were people, there would be conflicts of interest. This saying was true. Queen Lilicia, as a woman, she controlled the sand race. It seemed that this had caused some dissatisfaction among the older generation. Of course, perhaps, some people had the ambition to replace Queen Lilicia, right? This kind of thing was not uncommon. There were simply too many to mention. Lin Feng was already used to it. Is bringing back outsiders harming the interests of the sand race? The High Priestess is being too uptight. If I remember correctly, when the High Priestess was young, you also brought back a few women from other races as concubines. Queen Lilicia said calmly. The High Priestess's expression immediately turned ugly. Queen Lilicia actually used what happened back then to refute her. The High Priestess wanted to say something, but was directly rebutted by Queen Lilicia. The High Priestess said indifferently, "In the past, this High Priestess could control everything about them. Does your majesty dare to say that you can control everything about this person?" Hearing this, Queen Lilicia's expression suddenly sank. Along the way, she had used all sorts of threats and promises to get Lin Feng to agree to become her manservant. However, she had failed. Therefore, Queen Lilicia naturally did not have the confidence to completely control everything about Lin Feng. After seeing Queen Lilicia's expression, the High Priestess's face immediately revealed a smug expression. Just as she was about to speak again, Lin Feng suddenly spoke. Furthermore, he directly reprimanded the High Priestess. "Impudent! You are only the High Priestess. You are not even the ruler of the Sand Race. How dare you be so impudent in front of the Sand Race Queen? Who gave you the guts to do that? How dare you disrespect the Sand Race Queen like this? Could it be that you want to rebel?" The moment Lin Feng said this, instantly, everyone's expression changed drastically. Naturally, something like rebellion could not be casually mentioned. Once it was confirmed, it was a capital offense. Many people in the Sand Race knew that the High Priestess was indeed very dissatisfied with the young Lilicia inheriting the throne. Therefore, he had always been at loggerheads with Queen Lilicia. It was normal for clansmen to have conflicts. However, if it escalated to the level of rebellion, that would be a completely different story. What nonsense are you talking about? Don't slander me. The High Priestess coldly looked at Lin Feng. A murderous look flashed across his eyes. That's right, brat. How dare you slander the High Priestess? What are your intentions? Are you trying to sow discord between the Queen and the High Priestess? Your Majesty, don't be blinded by this brat. This brat has wild ambitions. The High Priestess, everybody was blaming Lin Feng. Some priests even wanted to kill Lin Feng, who was trying to mislead the public. "Guilty conscience," said Lin Feng, twitching his mouth. You. Lin, if it was a war of words, all of them together, they couldn't necessarily compete with Lin Feng. Your Majesty, this brat harbors ill intentions. If we don't deal with him, the High Priestess will be displeased. It will affect the unity of our Sand Race. The High Priestess said darkly. This old fellow was indeed a sinister and vicious character. His words were aggressive. Moreover, the meaning of his words was very clear. He wanted to kill Lin Feng. Calm their anger. Queen Lilicia said, "High Priestess, you are exaggerating. This is a friend of mine. He has no ill intentions towards our Sand Race. All right, this queen has just returned and is tired. You can leave now. This queen wants to go back and rest." After saying that, Queen Lilicia ignored the high priestess and the others. She gave Lin Feng a look, indicating for him to follow her. Lin Feng followed behind Queen Lilicia and walked inside. Queen Lilicia's residence was a stone palace. It was divided into several rooms. There were cultivation rooms, living rooms, guest rooms, refining rooms, alchemy rooms, and so on. After returning to the stone palace, Queen Lilicia looked at Lin Feng and said coldly, "Don't think that just because this queen said that you are this queen's friend in front of the high priestess and the others, this queen will let you go. That is absolutely impossible. You have now become this queen's manservant. You are destined to be this queen's manservant forever." Lin Feng said, "There's a saying that a serf sings when he turns over, suppressing the landlord until he cries. So, Queen, you have to be careful when I turn over. I will not sing anything else. I will sing 100 times, 100 times." Looking for a beating, Queen Lilicia was angry. The trace of goodwill that Lin Feng had for helping her out of the predicament instantly disappeared. Now, Queen Lilicia only wanted to do one thing. That was beat this hateful guy in front of her until he was crippled. So, Queen Lilicia directly pounced on Lin Feng. This woman was beautiful, but her temper was quite fiery. Now, Lin Feng's magic was imprisoned by Queen Lilicia. This was an extremely special sealing method. This sealing method, Lin Feng was unable to undo it in a short period of time. Originally, Queen Lilicia was a quasi-emperor level powerhouse. What's more, Lin Feng, whose magic was imprisoned, was no match for Queen Lilicia. "Stop!" Lin Feng hurriedly shouted. "Do you have any last words to say?" Queen Lilicia asked fiercely. "You are so beautiful. A beautiful woman like you. How can I be rough? You are not only beautiful, you're also a lady. Elegant. Every move. You are all incomparably charming ladies." Lin Feng looked at Queen Lilicia and said with a loving confession. Even he couldn't help but feel a little mushy. Who didn't like to hear praise from others? Even Queen Lilicia. She also liked to hear praise from others. Lin Feng's praise for her. Queen Lilicia enjoyed it quite a bit. But this did not change Queen Lilicia's decision to deal with Lin Feng. "What you're saying is of no use to this queen." Queen Lilicia snorted coldly. The next moment, she rushed in front of Lin Feng. Then, without caring about her image, she attacked Lin Feng. "I'll block it." Lin Feng blocked Queen Lilicia's attack. Of course, his magic was sealed now. He couldn't completely block Queen Lilicia's attack. Sometimes, it was really painful to be punched by Queen Lilicia. Lin Feng finally found an opportunity. A hungry tiger pounced on its food. He directly pushed Queen Lilicia to the ground. "You're courting death." Woo woo woo. Queen Lilicia was furious. Halfway through her words, her lips were blocked by Lin Feng's lips. Chapter 3722. Bang! A loud sound was heard. Lin Feng was sent flying by Queen Lilicia. With a plop, Lin Feng fell to the ground. "I'll kill you." Queen Lilicia forcefully wiped her lips. She seemed to want to wipe away Lin Feng's aura. She wiped it away as well. She directly pounced on Lin Feng. She looked like she wanted to kill someone. "Murdering your own husband." Lin Feng quickly got up from the ground and ran out. "If you dare to shout again, do you believe that I won't chop you up and feed you to the snakes?" Queen Lilicia looked at Lin Feng fiercely. "We gentlemen use our words, not our fists. If you don't do anything, I naturally won't shout." Lin Feng said. "Humph." Queen Lilicia snorted coldly, thinking of what had just happened. Suddenly, she became a little upset. However, she did not continue to attack Lin Feng. Instead, she said, "This queen can spare you temporarily, but you'd better behave yourself during this period of time. Also, don't talk nonsense about what happened to us. If this queen finds out, this queen will cut off your tongue." Queen Lilicia said fiercely, looking at Lin Feng with a threatening gaze. Lin Feng said, "Don't worry, I've always been a tight-lipped person. I definitely won't talk nonsense." "It better be as you say," Queen Lilicia said coldly. Lin Feng asked, "What?" Could it be that you want to go into seclusion? That's right. I will go into seclusion for a few days. Go outside and find the guard commander to arrange your residence. After Queen Lilicia finished speaking, with a wave of her hand, suddenly, the door closed, and Lin Feng was locked outside the door. This was exactly what Lin Feng wanted. When Queen Lilicia went into seclusion, it was just right to break the seal that Queen Lilicia had placed on him. Thinking of this, Lin Feng could not help but reveal a smile. Lin Feng walked outside. Thousands of meters away from Lilicia's palace, there were patrolling guards. Lin Feng looked at the guard commander and said, "I'll have to trouble you to arrange a place for me to stay." The guard leader nodded and said, "Young master, please follow me." The news of Lin Feng helping Queen Lilicia to reprimand the high priestess had long spread throughout the race. These were the personal guards of Queen Lilicia. Naturally, he felt very satisfied. In addition, Queen Lilicia had said that Lin Feng was her friend. Therefore, this guard commander was very respectful towards Lin Feng. On the way, the guard commander asked curiously, "Sir, what is your relationship with our queen? It shouldn't be a simple friendship, right?" Lin Feng smiled and said, "It's not convenient to talk about our relationship, but I think you should understand." Understood, understood, understood. I understand. The queen is also a woman. The guard commander sighed. Very soon, the guard commander arranged a place for Lin Feng to stay. This was a stone palace, but the area was much smaller than Queen Lilicia's stone palace. In the past, this was the place where Queen Lilicia lived when she was still a princess. "If there's anything, sir, please instruct me," the guard commander said. "All right," Lin Feng nodded. "Then I'll take my leave." The guard commander cupped his fists and left. After entering the room, Lin Feng moved his mind. A ball of light flew out, although Lin Feng's magic power could not be used. However, Lin Feng's mind could be used. He could also use his mind to summon all kinds of things. This ball of light wrapped around two things. The first thing was an ancient bronze book. The second thing was a drop of phoenix blood. On the cover of the ancient bronze book, there were 4 words written in flamboyant calligraphy. However, Lin Feng did not recognize these 4 words. He guessed. Perhaps it was the language of the phoenix race? However, Lin Feng guessed. These 4 words. They should be the words Phoenix Grimoire. What is recorded in the Phoenix Grimoire? Could it be that it records the many top sacred arts of the phoenix race? Lin Feng could not help but think. He felt that there was really such a possibility. In the Phoenix Grimoire, it recorded the various powerful sacred arts of the phoenix race. If that was the case, he could successfully cultivate the various top sacred arts of the phoenix race before handing the Phoenix Grimoire to the phoenix race. Thinking of this, Lin Feng could not help but reveal a happy expression. He tried to open the Phoenix Grimoire. However, Lin Feng failed. This Phoenix Grimoire, it cannot be opened. This made him rather depressed. Why can't I open it? Lin Feng frowned. He could not understand this matter, so he temporarily kept the Phoenix Grimoire. He would continue to try in the future. The Phoenix blood was also kept by Lin Feng. Right now, Lin Feng could not use his magic power. So, he could not refine the Phoenix blood, and he was in the sand race. Danger lurked everywhere. It was also not the time to refine the Phoenix blood. "Brat, get out here." At this moment, shouts and curses came from outside. After Lin Feng heard the shouts outside, he walked outside. When he came out, he found more than 10 sand race cultivators blocking the way outside. In the distance, there were also many sand race cultivators watching the show. The leader of the sand race cultivators was a young cultivator with a thin figure. The person who shouted was not this person, but a sturdy sand race cultivator. His face was fierce, fiendish. Whose dog is this, to actually run to someone else's door and bark? Lin Feng looked indifferently at the sturdy cultivator who spoke. "Brat, you dare to insult me?" The sturdy cultivator immediately glared at him. He looked coldly at Lin Feng. His expression was as if he wanted to eat Lin Feng. Lin Feng said indifferently, "When did I insult you? I was just insulting the dog." "What? Could it be that you're that dog? That's quite strange." This is the first time I've seen people fighting to call themselves a dog. I really admire you. Lin Feng's words were too sarcastic. Many people's mouths twitched violently. The sturdy cultivator clenched his fists and looked at Lin Feng with gritted teeth. Axe, I want to challenge you to a life and death battle. I want to defend my dignity. Do you dare to accept? The sturdy cultivator said with a fierce expression. Lin Feng curled his lips and said, "A trash like you is worthy of challenging me to a life and death battle. Who do you think you are? I don't even want to make a move against trash like you, because it will dirty my hands." Lin Feng could be said to be incomparably arrogant, although his magic power was sealed. However, Lin Feng's physical body was there for all to see. When the physical body was strong enough, it could break any divine ability with a punch. Lin Feng was extremely confident in his 6 times dragon elephant arm. Even if his magic power was sealed, he could still break 10,000 techniques. Chapter 37:23. Axe was completely infuriated by Lin Feng. No matter what, he was also an emperor-level expert. Lin Feng, he seemed to be just an emperor god. An emperor god. He actually dared to humiliate him, an emperor-level expert. Axe. Naturally, he couldn't bear it anymore. In his heart, his anger burned, and his killing intent was awe-inspiring. "Kid, I'll trample you under my feet later and make you beg for mercy." Axe looked at Lin Feng fiercely. Then he leaped up. Powerful dermic powers surged out. He threw a punch at Lin Feng. Above his fist, the image of the endless ghost sand appeared. This divine ability, it evolved into endless ghost sand. It became one with his body. A punch was thrown. Its power was endless. Such a terrifying and tyrannical punch would definitely cause great damage to him. However, Lin Feng looked at Axe with contempt. He directly activated the dragon elephant arm. Then he punched towards Axe. To deal with Axe, Lin Feng didn't use the dragon elephant arm at all. There was no need to use a sledgehammer to kill a pig. That was the reason. This kid didn't even use his magic power? Isn't this kid too arrogant? He doesn't put Axe in his eyes at all. Otherwise, why didn't he use his magic power? This brat seems to only be a celestial emperor, while Axe is a celestial emperor. The gap between their cultivation levels is huge. Even if this brat is a cultivation genius, with such a low cultivation level, he shouldn't be able to cause any harm to Axe. This kid is simply courting death. Let's see how Axe will deal with him later. The Sandrace cultivators began to discuss among themselves. In everyone's opinion, Lin Feng was courting death. At this moment, Lin Feng and Axe's attacks. They collided. Bang! Along with the earth-shaking sound of the collision, there was the sound of the collision. It was as if 2 ancient mountains had collided. Everyone saw. After Lin Feng threw a punch, it directly destroyed Axe's spirit technique. Then, Lin Feng's fist. It collided with Axe's fist. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. Subsequently, the news spread. Axe's arm was directly broken by the powerful force. Broken bones. It pierced through his flesh. It was exposed. Axe screamed in pain. His entire being. They were all sent flying. In midair, Alex. He spat out large mouthfuls of blood. There was a thump. Axe fell to the ground. He hugged his broken arm. Screams rang out continuously. Around them, absolute silence. Axe was such a powerful figure. He was actually crippled by Lin Feng with a single punch. It was simply too unbelievable. What was even more unbelievable was that Lin Feng was only using the power of his physical body. He had crippled Axe. It was truly inconceivable. It was hard to imagine if Lin Feng were to use his transcendence energy. How terrifying would his combat strength be? I told you. You are my eyes. He was just a piece of trash. You didn't believe it. You just had to rush up and ask for humiliation. Lin Feng looked at Axe indifferently. He still had a high and mighty attitude. That attitude, it made many Sand Clan people want to rush up and teach Lin Feng a lesson. Kid, I didn't expect that. You still have such strength. But remember, this is the Sand Clan, not a place for you to behave atrociously. At this time, The thin cultivator looked coldly at Lin Feng and said sinisterly, "This person, he was the leader of these Sand Clan people. He was also the most powerful among these Sand Clan people." Lin Feng said indifferently, "So what if you are from the Sand Clan? My fist is powerful enough. The world is so big. Where can I not go? What? A piece of trash like you wants to be crippled by me? What did you say?" This Sand Clan cultivator looked at Lin Feng in disbelief. He had never thought that Lin Feng would dare to call him trash. The surrounding Sand Clan people also looked at each other in dismay. They also did not expect Lin Feng to be so arrogant. This Sand Clan cultivator was not an ordinary person. He was the son of the high priest. His name was Arihan. He had cultivated for 3,820,000 years and was at the peak of the Emperor realm. He stood there. It gave people a great sense of oppression. This was a kind of oppression of the realm. It was suffocating. And Arihan, he had never hidden his aura. So, everyone knew. Even though Lin Feng did not know Arihan's specific realm, but he definitely knew how terrifying Arihan was. However, under the premise of knowing how terrifying Arihan was, Lin Feng still called Arihan trash. It was really out of everyone's expectations. No one knew what Lin Feng was thinking. "I said you were trash. Don't you understand human language? I don't have time to chat with you. Take your people and get lost. Don't disturb my peace." Lin Feng said indifferently, "You are courting death." Arihan looked coldly at Lin Feng. He wanted to kill Lin Feng. "I'm courting death? What a joke. I could take a piece of trash like you within 3 moves. Lin Feng said as he stretched out 3 fingers. He was as arrogant as ever and did not put an expert like Arihan in his eyes. Arihan was originally a gloomy person, but now he was so angry at Lin Feng that his face turned ashen. He could not bear it any longer. "Since you are courting death, then I will fulfill your wish today." Arihan looked coldly at Lin Feng. His body emitted an extremely terrifying aura. Then, Arihan, he walked towards Lin Feng step by step. At this moment, the guard commander who had heard the news led his men to surround the place. The guard commander said coldly, "Lord Arihan, Lin Gongzi is our queen's distinguished guest. Don't go too far. This kid insulted me. If I don't kill this kid, where will my face go? If anyone dares to stop me, whoever dares to stop me is my Arihan's enemy." Arihan said coldly. "Uft." Lin Feng could not help but laugh. "Brat, what are you laughing at?" Arihan looked coldly at Lin Feng. Lin Feng said, "You are the son of the high priest? Even your father is only a subordinate of Queen Lalisha. Who do you think you are? You even dare to threaten Queen Lalisha's personal guard commander? Do you really think you are someone important? Or is it really, as the rumors say, that you father and son are planning to rebel, so you are ignoring Queen Lalisha's majesty? Don't slander us, father and son." When he heard the word rebel, Arihan's pupils suddenly shrank. He then shouted in a deep voice. Lin Feng's heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. Talk of rebellion. It was originally a groundless matter. It was something he said casually. Previously, the high priest did not show any abnormalities. That was because the high priest was an old fox who was good at hiding himself. However, Arihan appeared to be a little flustered. Could it be? Chapter 3724. Queen Lalisha did not hold the position of queen for a very long time, only a mere 1,000 years. It was said that it was because Queen Lalisha's father was plotted against. He was seriously injured and died. The Sand Race could not be without a leader. Most of the members of the priest order recommended the high priest to take the position of patriarch. However, Queen Lalisha's father stood his ground before he died. He helped Lalisha to the position of queen. This naturally caused the high priest's bloodline to be dissatisfied. The high priest was very ambitious. After losing that opportunity, he no longer had the chance to be patriarch. So, the high priest had been at loggerheads with Queen Lalisha ever since. Moreover, these years, it had become more and more obvious. He even dared to criticize Queen Lalisha in public. It could be seen. How powerful was the high priest? However, although there were conflicts between the two sides, the high priest still prioritized the interests of the clan, and he had never shown any intention of rebellion. Perhaps it was because the high priest, this old fox, had hidden too deeply. Brat, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't speak carelessly. Ali Khan looked coldly at Lin Feng and said. Lin Feng said indifferently, Have you done it or not? You are clear about it. Let's go. Ali Khan looked coldly at Lin Feng, then led everyone away. Lin Gongzi, are you all right? After Ali Khan left, the guard commander stepped forward and asked, I'm fine. Thank you for making the trip. Lin Feng said, Young master, you're welcome. This is what I should do. I will leave a group of soldiers to guard here later, in case Ali Khan comes to find trouble with you again. The guard commander said, Good. Thank you for your trouble. Lin Feng cupped his fists. After chatting with the guard commander for a while, Lin Feng returned to his residence. Before the guard commander left, he left a group of people to guard Lin Feng's residence. Lin Feng continued to try to break the restriction in his body. These days, Lin Feng had been studying the restriction in his body. The restriction set up by Queen Lilicia was very strange. Although Lin Feng hadn't been able to break these restrictions, he had been studying them for many days. Lin Feng still managed to find some weaknesses in these restrictions. Break these restrictions. It was only a matter of time. While Lin Feng was in seclusion to break the restriction, Ali Khan returned to his residence with a gloomy expression. As soon as he returned, someone came to inform Ali Khan. Send Arihan to the high priest. Arihan arrived at the residence of the high priestess and found that a dozen or so priests who supported the high priestess were also there. Arihan bowed and said, Father. Yes. The high priest nodded. He then asked, You want to cause trouble for that brat? Arihan said, That's right. However, they were stopped by Lilicia's men. The high priest said, Don't bother with this person for the time being. Once we deal with Lilicia, this brat will also die. Now go out and greet some important guests. Ali Khan's eyes immediately lit up. Father, are we going to make a move? The high priest nodded. Ali Khan was ecstatic and then said, This child will go and greet father's guests now. Immediately after, Ali Khan quickly left. Lin Feng naturally did not know what was happening here at the high priest's place. Right now, Lin Feng was still breaking the restrictions in his body. Queen Lilicia's restrictions were really strange. Even a great master of array formations like Lin Feng found it quite troublesome to break them. However, fortunately, Lin Feng still found a trick to breaking these restrictions. Under his efforts, one restriction after another began to be broken. It took Lin Feng about 3 days. The restrictions set up by Queen Lilicia were finally completely broken by Lin Feng. This made Lin Feng extremely happy. After breaking the restrictions in his body, his magic power immediately recovered. The magic power in his body was like a surging river. It engulfed his entire body. A series of rumbling sounds came from his body. It was like a river surging endlessly. Shwa! A light flashed. The phoenix blood flew out. Because this drop of phoenix blood had been with him for too long, its effect was no longer as good as before. But this was only relative. The effect of the phoenix blood was still very shocking. Lin Feng planned to refine this drop of phoenix blood to increase his cultivation. He just didn't know. Could this drop of phoenix blood help him break through? Right now, Lin Feng was at the 8th layer of the Divine Lord Realm, and Lin Feng's own accumulation was too huge, so he had to break through. It wasn't easy. Lin Feng was already satisfied that the phoenix blood could help him break through a level. Lin Feng swallowed the phoenix blood. Then he began to circulate the immemorial dragonesque elephant art. Under the refinement of the immemorial dragonesque elephant art, the phoenix blood turned into the purest energy. The pure energy was all absorbed by Lin Feng's body, and Lin Feng's realm also began to steadily increase. Very soon, Lin Feng's realm broke through to the 9th layer of the Divine Lord Realm. However, his realm's breakthrough didn't stop there. The effect of the phoenix blood. It was much stronger than he had imagined. Lin Feng's face revealed joy. Perhaps the phoenix blood could help him break through again? As expected, it was just as Lin Feng had guessed. The phoenix blood increased Lin Feng's realm by another level. Lin Feng's realm finally stopped at the 10th layer of the Divine Lord realm. Not bad, not bad. I'm only one step away from breaking through to the Immortal Lord realm. Lin Feng's face revealed a satisfied expression. Next, he had to prepare for breaking through to the Immortal Lord realm. Of course, Lin Feng also knew that breaking through to the Immortal Lord realm wasn't easy, because breaking through from the Divine Lord realm to the Immortal Lord realm was equivalent to breaking through a large realm. Compared to breaking through a small realm, it was unknown how many times more difficult it was. After Lin Feng came out of seclusion, he didn't directly leave the Sand Race, because he discovered the Sand Race High Priest plot. Lin Feng decided to tell Queen Lilicia about this matter. After interacting with Queen Lilicia, Lin Feng knew that Queen Lilicia's heart was actually quite pure. This woman gave Lin Feng a good feeling. Moreover, Queen Lilicia's first kiss was taken by him. No matter what, he should also remind Queen Lilicia, right? After Lin Feng came out of seclusion, Queen Lilicia had yet to come out of seclusion. Lin Feng's gaze looked towards the deepest part of the Sand Race. There was a huge stone tower. Lin Feng had seen it before, but previously his spiritual power was sealed. Lin Feng was focused on breaking the seal, so he didn't pay too much attention to the stone tower. Now, Lin Feng's spiritual power recovered. His perception also recovered. He felt that the stone tower was extremely extraordinary. Chapter 3725. The Absolute Beginning Era. Until now, it was too long ago. This was one of the first few eras after the start of the era. Some said that the Absolute Beginning Era was the third era after the start of the era. Some said that the Absolute Beginning Era was the sixth era after the start of the era. However, it was hard to say which era it was in. After all, it was too long ago. However, there was one thing. It was certain. The Absolute Beginning Era was definitely one of the most ancient eras. It was also one of the most glorious eras. The glory of the Absolute Beginning Era shone on the world. The immortality of the Absolute Beginning Era was hard to extinguish. The things left behind by the Absolute Beginning Era were definitely shocking. Perhaps it was enough to shock the world. It was shocking. And in this era, there were basically not many things that had been passed down to this day. Time was enough to erase everything. Many supreme treasures from the Absolute Beginning Era were gradually destroyed in the long river of time. It was really not easy for the stone pagoda to be passed down until now. Can I enter the stone pagoda to take a look? Lin Feng asked. He wanted to enter the stone pagoda to take a look. Perhaps there would be a shocking discovery inside. To be able to enter such a place, it would be no less than a great opportunity. The guard commander said, I can't make the decision. Either the high priest team has to discuss and make a decision, or the queen has to personally write a decree. Only then can you have a chance to enter. The high priest team was in the hands of the high priest. To go through the high priest team, entering the stone pagoda was obviously not realistic. Then, the only way was to enter the stone pagoda through the relationship with Queen Lilicia. Queen Lilicia was currently in seclusion. Therefore, he could not enter the stone pagoda for the time being. Moreover, even if Queen Lilicia came out of seclusion, would he be able to enter the stone pagoda? Actually, even if Queen Lilicia came out of seclusion, the probability of entering the stone pagoda was extremely low. Lin Feng did not think so. Queen Lilicia would let him enter the stone pagoda. Let's wait for the queen to come out of seclusion, Lin Feng said. Actually, he no longer had any hope. That night, Yi Zichen the guard commander came to find Lin Feng. He also gave Lin Feng a piece of news that surprised him. Queen Lilicia herself wrote a handwritten decree. This handwritten order was the pass to enter the stone pagoda. Lin Feng did not expect that Queen Lilicia would write a letter for him to enter the tower. Has the queen come out of seclusion? Lin Feng asked doubtfully. He hasn't come out yet. However, Her Majesty the Queen had once cultivated an avatar. This avatar was controlled by Her Highness the Queen's divine sense and had a part of Her Highness the Queen's consciousness. When Her Highness the Queen was in seclusion, this avatar would guard the stone palace for Her Highness the Queen. Today, when I learned that you wanted to enter the stone tower, I went to report this matter to Her Highness Queen Lilicia's avatar. In the end, Queen Lilicia's avatar wrote this order. The guard commander said, Queen Lilicia's avatar was equivalent to Queen Lilicia herself. Therefore, this order was written by Queen Lilicia. This woman actually agreed to let me enter the stone tower. I wonder what kind of attitude she has toward me now. Could it be that she has decided to fall in love with me with a kiss? Lin Feng could not help but ponder. Then, a smile appeared on his face. If it was really a kiss, then it seemed that his charm was really great. Lin Feng cupped his fists and said, Many thanks for your help, my lord. The guard commander revealed a smile. He hoped that Lin Feng would remember his kindness. It seemed that Lin Feng was someone who knew how to deal with people. The guard commander said, Young master, there is no need to be so courteous. This is what I should do. Then, the guard commander took his leave. Lin Feng took Queen Lilicia's handwritten order and headed to the stone pagoda. Under the night sky, the stone pagoda emitted a layer of holy light. That layer of holy light enveloped the stone pagoda, making it look magnificent. It was exceptionally beautiful. Lin Feng arrived before the stone pagoda. He saw two old men sitting cross-legged at the entrance of the stone pagoda. They were the elders of the sand race. They were like two stone statues that had never moved since ancient times. Lin Feng arrived. These two people, they did not move at all. They did not even open their eyes. These were two extremely powerful existences, and they were extremely ancient. They should be one of the foundations of the sand race. Lin Feng was extremely shocked. It seemed that the sand race was much stronger than he had imagined. Two seniors. This junior has come with Queen Lilicia's handwritten order to enter the stone pagoda, to cultivate. Lin Feng said. The two sand race elders opened their eyes. At the same time, they looked at Lin Feng. The elder on the left said, Hand over the handwritten order. Lin Feng walked towards the elder. After arriving in front of him, he handed the handwritten order to the sand race elder. The sand race elder looked at it. Then he nodded. He looked at the other person. He said, Open the stone pagoda. Okay. The other sand race elder replied. Then, the two sand race elders formed seals with both hands. Incantation after incantation. Condensed. Those seals. Runes were condensed one after another. Those were runes. All of them flew towards the stone door. On the stone door, mysterious runes appeared. Those mysterious runes. They were like small golden dragons. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The stone door. It let out an earth-shattering sound. Then, the stone door gradually opened. Finally, the stone door opened completely. You can go in now. The sand race elder on the left said. Lin Feng cupped his fists towards the two sand race elders. Then, he entered the stone pagoda. After Lin Feng entered the stone pagoda, the stone door closed again. The descendant of the sovereign emperor race. A glint flashed across the aged eyes of the Sand Clan elder on the left. Perhaps this is the will of the heavens. The Sand Race elder on the right said, Yes. The Sand Race elder on the left nodded. The two of them did not communicate anymore. Instead, they closed their eyes. They continued to meditate. It was as if they had become two unmoving stone statues. This stone pagoda, there was a total of 70%. Lin Feng had entered the first level. The first level contained a large amount of immortal qi and was filled with stone chambers. Lin Feng guessed, this should be a sacred place for cultivation. Cultivating here, one could absorb immortal qi. Cultivation speed, one would be able to improve greatly. Lin Feng also realized there was a sign outside each stone chamber. The front of the sign said, Do not disturb. The back of the sign said, No one. The first level of the stone pagoda had a total of 18 stone chambers. These 18 stone chambers were all facing upwards. In other words, within the 18 stone chambers, There were cultivators cultivating inside. Chapter 3726. The second floor was the same as the first floor. It was also divided into many cultivation stone rooms. Lin Feng wasn't particularly interested in these cultivation stone rooms. He hoped that he would be able to find some of the opportunities he wanted in the stone pagoda. For example, some divine abilities, cultivation insights, or other things. The third floor, the fourth floor, the fifth floor. It was also a cultivation stone room. Lin Feng wanted to enter the sixth floor, but there was a powerful restriction on the sixth floor. The powerful restriction blocked Lin Feng's path. Lin Feng tried to break the restriction here. However, when he carefully observed the powerful restriction on the sixth floor, Lin Feng suddenly felt as if his head was about to split open. The restriction on the sixth floor. He couldn't open it all. What a terrifying restrictive array. Even I am incapable of breaking the restrictive arrays here. It is hard to imagine just what level did the cultivator who created these restrictive arrays belong to. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. The restriction here was indeed too terrifying. Lin Feng was extremely curious. What exactly was on the sixth floor? As a result, the restriction here was so terrifying that it was simply shocking to the extreme. However, it made Lin Feng give up. He was really unwilling to give up. Lin Feng planned to continue trying and see if he could break the restriction on the sixth floor. However, this attempt was exactly the same as the previous one. The restriction on the sixth floor, not to mention breaking it. He took a few glances. Lin Feng felt as if his head was about to split open. This feeling was simply worse than death. What a pity. Even though I know that there might be a huge secret hidden in the sixth floor, these secrets are ultimately not fated with me. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. He planned to leave the stone tower. However, just as Lin Feng turned to leave, suddenly, something shocking happened. Lin Feng's sovereign blood. It actually activated on its own. Every time it activated, the blood of a sovereign would emit waves of powerful energy. And these energies all merged into the restriction on the sixth floor. Lin Feng looked at this scene in shock. He didn't expect this to happen at all. His sovereign emperor blood. Why would it change at this time? And Lin Feng discovered that when the energy from the sovereign blood entered the restriction on the sixth floor, the restriction on the sixth floor became weaker and weaker. This made Lin Feng feel even more confused. Could it be that his sovereign blood had the ability to break restrictions? After so many years, he didn't know that the sovereign blood had such an effect. There must be something strange. Therefore, Lin Feng felt that something was very wrong. There must be something strange. Lin Feng even felt that this abnormality. It was very likely related to his bloodline. Lin Feng thought of one possibility. Could it be that there was something on the sixth floor that was intimately connected to his sovereign emperor's blood? Therefore, was that why such a strange situation had occurred? Lin Feng didn't know if he was right or not. However, the situation in front of him made Lin Feng extremely happy, because the restriction on the sixth floor was constantly disappearing. It wouldn't be long before the restriction on the sixth floor completely disappeared. When the restriction disappeared, he would be able to ascend to the sixth floor. At that time, he would know. In the sixth floor, what was it? An hour later, the restriction on the sixth floor was finally broken. Lin Feng entered the sixth floor. When Lin Feng entered the sixth floor, the restriction that had been broken appeared again. Then, the sixth floor was sealed again. Lin Feng didn't pay attention to the restriction that sealed the sixth floor again. His gaze. It was all on a skeleton in the sixth floor. In the sixth floor, there was a stone bed. And on the stone bed, a skeleton sat cross-legged. When he saw the skeleton, he was shocked. Lin Feng suddenly felt a sharp pain in his heart. Then, tears flowed down uncontrollably. Oh, what's wrong with me? Lin Feng wiped away his tears. Then, he muttered to himself. He didn't know what was wrong with him. Why? When he saw the skeleton, he would feel a sharp pain in his heart. Why would he cry? All of this. It was a mystery. He It was his first time seeing that skeleton. Could it be that the skeleton is the skeleton of the ancestor with the sovereign emperor's blood? Lin Feng thought of a possibility. He couldn't break the restriction and come to the sixth floor. However, when he was about to leave, the sovereign emperor's blood automatically awakened. The mysterious power emitted from the sovereign emperor's blood. To help him, he opened a restriction on the sixth floor. All of these things, it seemed to point directly. This skeleton, it had a lot to do with the sovereign emperor's family. Since the beginning of the era, the sovereign emperor's family was extremely powerful, and it had been passed down until now. Lin Feng knew even less about the ancestors of the sovereign emperor's family. He only knew a few ancestors of the sovereign emperor's family. For example, the ancestor of the sovereign emperor's family, the master of gods, the sky-devouring demon master. The ancestor of the sovereign emperor's family who smashed open the undying realm with a punch, the sky-devouring demon emperor. Actually, even his understanding of these ancestors was extremely limited. He only knew a few things about them. Their life stories might have long been buried in the long river of history. At this moment, the skeleton sitting cross-legged on the stone bed actually emitted cracking sounds of bones rubbing against each other. Lin Feng saw it in shock. That skeleton, it actually stood up. Then, it walked towards him step by step. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng immediately felt a chill down his spine. He kept retreating. The scene in front of him was too terrifying. It simply made one's hair stand on end. An existence that had been dead for tens of thousands of years. Only a skeleton was left. Now, this existence, it was actually resurrected. It was too unbelievable. Anyone who saw such a situation, they would probably suck in a breath of cold air. But now, the restriction on the sixth floor had already sealed the sixth floor. So, Lin Feng had nowhere to retreat. The skeleton walked down from the stone bed. He looked at Lin Feng and actually said, "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. You're not dead?" Lin Feng looked at the skeleton in shock. Skeleton speaking, it was really a fantasy. But all this, it was really happening in front of him. Chapter 37:27. When Lin Feng heard that, he couldn't help but be astonished. Now, he was finally certain. When the skeleton was alive, it was really an expert from the Sovereign Emperor clan. It was one of his ancestors, descendant of the Sovereign Emperor clan, Lin Feng. "Greetings, ancestor." Lin Feng bowed to the skeleton. "There's no need for so many formalities." The skeleton said, "It's a pity that I didn't record down the divine ability inheritance. However, the Sovereign Emperor clan doesn't need to pass down the divine ability inheritance orally. As your bloodline continues to awaken, you will gradually grasp many powerful abilities of the Sovereign Emperor clan. In fact, the most important thing is not what the ancestor passed down to you, but what you create yourself. Living under the protection of the ancestor, you will never be able to truly grow. Perhaps one day, you will be able to grow into a cultivator like your ancestor. But so what? In the end, you won't be able to withstand the erosion of time. Or perhaps, you won't be able to withstand some terrifying creatures." When he heard this, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. This ancestor of the Sovereign Emperor clan was talking about some terrifying creatures. What kind of creatures were they? Lin Feng was puzzled. However, he didn't interrupt. Instead, he continued to listen to the ancestors' teachings. Only by creating your own Tao will you be able to surpass your ancestors and go further. Do you understand the meaning behind my words? The skeleton looked at Lin Feng. His eyes were empty. It wasn't even a ghost fire. However, Lin Feng knew this unknown ancestor. He must be looking at him, connected by blood. He told himself, he must be filled with many expectations. "Understand what you mean, ancestor," Lin Feng said firmly. "That's good," the skeleton said with relief. "Ancestor, are there even more terrifying creatures that can threaten the strongest in the world?" Lin Feng asked. "There are some things that you don't know now. As your cultivation increases, you will come into contact with a new world. At that time, you will know many things. Yes, Lin Feng replied. Child, do you have a wife? Suddenly, the skeleton asked. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter in his heart. He didn't know why his ancestor would ask him that. Lin Feng indeed had a lot of women. He replied, I already have a wife. Have you ever given birth to a child? The skeleton asked. Not yet, Lin Feng replied. The skeleton said, the stronger the bloodline, the harder it is to give birth to a child. Since the beginning of this era, our sovereign emperor clan's population has been extremely small. Therefore, child, you must cast more nets. If you cast more nets, there will be a net that can catch fish. Lin Feng rolled his eyes. He naturally understood what the ancestor meant by casting more nets. However, the ancestor's words were indeed reasonable. The stronger the partner, the higher the chances of successfully giving birth to a child. The skeleton said, Is there such a thing? Lin Feng asked in surprise. The skeleton replied, To my race, that is indeed the case. Yes, this junior will definitely remember that. Lin Feng said, To be able to see that there are still descendants of the sovereign emperor clan alive in this world, I can rest in peace. Child, open up your spiritual world and let your body relax. This skeleton contains a drop of my origin blood. Perhaps it can help you undergo a deeper bloodline baptism. The skeleton said. As soon as it finished speaking, the skeleton's body began to crumble into dust. It dissipated into the world. At this moment, Lin Feng, he was incomparably shocked. Lin Feng's undying bloodline had already undergone 3 bloodline baptisms. As for the sovereign emperor bloodline, it was still unable to undergo a second bloodline baptism. This was because Lin Feng needed to find the sovereign emperor bloodline's ancestral grounds. Perhaps there was a chance of obtaining the sovereign emperor bloodline. A second bloodline baptism. However, where exactly was the sovereign emperor bloodline's ancestral grounds? Lin Feng didn't have any clues. Lin Feng truly hadn't expected this. Within the Sand Race's sacred tower, it was actually able to awaken the sovereign emperor bloodline on a deeper level. Lin Feng hurriedly opened up his spiritual world and allowed his body to relax completely. Finally, the ancestor skeleton was completely reduced to dust. A drop of blood essence hovered in the air. This was the sovereign emperor bloodline's origin blood essence. Swoosh! This drop of origin blood essence quickly flew towards Lin Feng, and then entered Lin Feng's body. It entered Lin Feng's sovereign emperor bloodline. At this moment, Lin Feng's sovereign emperor bloodline seemed to have been revived. Within his sovereign emperor bloodline, powerful ripples of energy emanated from it. After Lin Feng's sovereign emperor bloodline devoured the sovereign emperor bloodline's origin blood essence, it began to transform. This was a deep-seated transformation. The sovereign emperor bloodline's hope, the undying heroic spirit, a supreme technique. Yi Fuqian murmured, The secret of eternal life. Countless voices rang out in Lin Feng's mind. Those voices, it was like the voice of Lin Feng's ancestor. They were calling out to Lin Feng. The bloodline shackles in Lin Feng's bloodline. At this moment, they were opening. In Lin Feng's dantian, holy light quickly gathered. There seemed to be something. It was about to condense. When the bloodline awakened, it would awaken some special abilities. For example, when the undying bloodline awakened at a deeper level, a small golden person condensed in Lin Feng's dantian. When the undying bloodline awakened for the 3rd time, Lin Feng mastered the ability to be reborn. The sovereign emperor bloodline. It was also an extremely terrifying bloodline. To be honest, the sovereign emperor bloodline. It was even more powerful than the undying bloodline. The undying bloodline was not an offensive bloodline. The undying bloodline was a bloodline that healed injuries and was reborn from nirvana. Although the undying bloodline also had many powerful offensive techniques, these techniques could not be compared to the offensive techniques recorded in the sovereign emperor bloodline. Because the sovereign emperor bloodline, it was an offensive bloodline. Since ancient times, countless powerful bloodlines had appeared. Many bloodlines had heaven-defying abilities. Their attack power shocked all the worlds. However, no matter how powerful the bloodline was in terms of attack power, it cannot be compared to the Sovereign Emperor bloodline. The Sovereign Emperor bloodline was this era. It deserved to be called the first bloodline. And now, Lin Feng's Sovereign Emperor bloodline was undergoing a deeper level of awakening. Although he did not know what the holy light condensed in his dantian was, but Lin Feng knew. Once that thing was successfully condensed, it was absolutely heaven-defying. 3 days and 3 nights passed. Lin Feng's Sovereign Emperor bloodline finally completed a deeper level of awakening. A powerful force surged out from Lin Feng's bloodline. That powerful force actually caused Lin Feng's realm to begin to rise. Soon, Lin Feng's realm rose to the peak of the Emperor God realm. Moreover, Chapter 3728, Breaking Through to the Immortal Emperor Realm. Naturally, it was not an easy task. However, at this very moment, after Lin Feng received the blessing of the ancestor's origin, everything seemed to be happening naturally. The barrier to the Immortal Emperor Realm. It could not stop Lin Feng from breaking through. Bang, bang, bang. He tried again and again. The dermic powers in his body surged like a torrential river. It swept through heaven and earth. There was a deafening sound. He tried to break through 49 times in a row. Finally, Lin Feng successfully broke through the barrier to the Immortal Emperor Realm. Lin Feng's body began to condense the Immortal Emperor laws. His dermic powers, they were also rising steadily. However, this time, Lin Feng did not attract the Thunder Tribulation. Logically speaking, breaking through to the Immortal Emperor Realm should attract the Thunder Tribulation. Of course, the Thunder Tribulation that was attracted might not reach the level of the Great Heavenly Tao Tribulation. However, given Lin Feng's savings, the Thunder Tribulation that was attracted would definitely be extremely terrifying. However, right now, Lin Feng did not attract the Thunder Tribulation. As a result, he was unusually puzzled. Demon Lord, I have broken through to the Immortal Emperor Realm. Why didn't the Thunder Tribulation descend? Lin Feng sent a voice transmission to the Demon Lord. He asked doubtfully. His realm stopped at the first heaven of the Immortal Emperor Realm. Although he was only a beginner Immortal Emperor, he was still an Immortal Emperor. Lin Feng had officially become an Immortal Emperor Realm expert. However, no Thunder Tribulation descended. It was extremely strange. The Demon Lord said, there are 2 possibilities. The first possibility, the stone pagoda we're in is simply too extraordinary. It helped you block out the lightning tribulation. The second possibility, because the time you spent breaking through to the God Emperor realm was relatively short, and when you broke through to the God Emperor realm, the tribulation you faced was the Great Heavenly Tao tribulation. So the Heavenly Tao is brewing a new lightning tribulation to deal with you. However, because the time you spent breaking through from the Emperor God realm to the Immortal Emperor realm was too short, the Heavenly Tao's new lightning tribulation had yet to be completed. Therefore, the lightning tribulation did not descend this time. So that's how it is. Lin Feng couldn't help but nod. No matter what the reason was, Lin Feng had broken through to the Immortal Emperor realm and didn't experience any lightning tribulations. This was an indisputable fact. Actually, Lin Feng, on the other hand, was looking forward to the arrival of a lightning tribulation. Because every time he transcended a tribulation, Lin Feng would benefit immensely from it. There's still another layer of space. I wonder what's on the 7th floor? Lin Feng looked at the staircase leading from the 6th floor to the 7th floor. The 7th level was still sealed by restrictions. The restrictions here. It was much more terrifying than the restrictions on the 6th floor. Lin Feng tried to break through the array, but he couldn't do it. As for the Sovereign Emperor blood, there was no reaction. Sovereign Emperor blood. The reason why he was able to open the restrictions on the 6th floor was because of the Sovereign Emperor blood ancestor bones. Obviously, the things on the 7th floor, and the sovereign emperor race. There was no relationship. Lin Feng walked towards the staircase leading to the 6th floor. Arriving here, the restrictions automatically separated. Lin Feng walked out. After Lin Feng left, the restrictions here. Then they closed again. Lin Feng walked out of the stone tower. The trip to the stone tower. The harvest was huge. The 2 old men guarding the tower looked at Lin Feng's back as he left. Their old eyes flashed. No one knew what they were thinking. Lin Feng returned to his residence and found out that Queen Lalicia had come out of seclusion. Hence, Lin Feng went to see Queen Lalicia. Queen Lalicia was as beautiful as ever. This woman, she was really a beauty in the world. "Beautiful queen, did you miss me?" Lin Feng said with a smile when he saw Queen Lalicia. Queen Lalicia looked at Lin Feng fiercely and said, "Miss you? Of course I miss you. I want to beat you up every day." As soon as she finished speaking, Queen Lalicia rushed towards Lin Feng. She threw a punch at Lin Feng. She wanted to teach Lin Feng a lesson. Now, Lin Feng's magic power had recovered, so he faced Queen Lalicia's attack. Lin Feng easily dodged Queen Lalicia's attack, following which he said, "Your Majesty the beautiful queen, someone as elegant as you, why do you have to resort to violence? This will greatly diminish your Majesty's beauty." Humph! Queen Lalicia couldn't help but snort coldly. Then she said, "You actually broke this queen's seal. You are quite capable." Lin Feng said, "I have to thank your highness for giving me the time to break the seal. Actually, I always knew that your highness had a crush on me and wouldn't make things difficult for me. How can you be so shameless? You actually have the nerve to say such words? Even the stone walls of this queen's palace are not as thick-skinned as you." Queen Lalicia said coldly, "Not thick-skinned. How can I woo such a beauty like your highness?" Lin Feng said with a smile, "I see that you are unrepentant. If I can seal you once, I can seal you a second time." Queen Lalicia said in a cold voice. There was a big disagreement. She planned to seal Lin Feng again. Lin Feng said with a smile, "Your highness' words to me are so deep that you are afraid of losing me and need to seal me to be at ease." Queen Lalicia couldn't help but roll her eyes. She gritted her teeth and said, "Seeing that your cultivation seems to have improved, let me see how much you've improved." As soon as she finished speaking, Queen Lalicia was about to attack Lin Feng. Lin Feng naturally had no interest in fighting with Queen Lalicia. He hurriedly said, "Wait, what? Do you have something to say?" Queen Lalicia asked. Lin Feng said, "There is indeed something important to tell you. I wonder if your highness has noticed that something is wrong with the high priestess?" Queen Lalicia raised her eyelids and said faintly, "What do you mean by that?" Lin Feng said, "Does your highness really not notice anything? Some people might really have bad intentions." Queen Lalicia said, "If the roots of a plant are rotten, the rotten roots must be cut off in order for the plant to survive. However, when cutting off the rotten roots, one must be careful, because if one is not careful, the roots that are not rotten will be cut off as well. When that time comes, the plant will die even faster." Hearing Queen Lalicia's words, Lin Feng instantly understood what Queen Lalicia was trying to say. It seemed that Queen Lalicia had already discovered that the High Priestess wanted to rebel. However, the High Priest was very powerful in the Sand Race. If they casually made a move on the High Priest, the Sand Race wouldn't be able to do anything. It was very likely that the Sand Race would fall apart. Therefore, Chapter 37:29. Darkness descended. Under the night sky, the endless ghost sand. It was filled with danger. More than a dozen figures flew towards the depths of the endless ghost sand. Shwa! The void split open, and a cultivator stepped out from the crack in the void. This cultivator was none other than Ariane. "I am Ariane, the son of the Sand Clan's high priest. I have been waiting for you here for a long time." Ariane said, "How are your preparations here?" An old man said, "This old man." His body was surrounded by golden light. He was actually an expert of the Kinwa people. Kinwa people. There were many branches in the myriad worlds. and the Kinwu people of the heavenly sage great world. It was definitely one of the more powerful branches. This branch, in the past, it was the tribe of the Kinwu people who followed the heavenly demon emperor. After the son of the heavenly demon emperor was born, the Kinwu people of the heavenly sage great world followed the son of the heavenly demon emperor. They hoped the son of the heavenly demon emperor could recreate the glory of the heavenly demon emperor. However, the son of the heavenly demon emperor died at the hands of Lin Feng. This matter, it caused a huge uproar among the Kinwu people. The experts of the Kinwu people naturally hated Lin Feng to the bone. However, the experts of the Kinwu people had never found a chance to deal with Lin Feng, other than the Kinwu people. Among these experts, there were also experts from the God-eating demon clan, the sacred god clan, the nine-headed bloodwolf clan, the eight-winged demon clan, the ancient god clan, and other races. Among these people, the strongest was this expert from the Kinwu people. This person was called Jin Daoyuan. He was a holy emperor-level expert. As for the other dozen or so people, they were all emperor-level experts. Arihan said confidently, "It's all ready. We're just waiting for you to arrive." Jin Daoyuan frowned and said, "I heard that the Sand Clan has 2 old men guarding the tower. Their cultivation is unfathomable, and these 2 old men are supporters of Queen Lilicia. When they join the battle, I'm afraid it will be very difficult." Arihan said with a smile, "Don't worry. My father has already contacted 2 of the terrifying creatures in the endless ghost sand. Those 2 terrifying creatures will attack the 2 old men guarding the pagoda." "Great, that's great." These people all revealed joyful expressions. Arihan said, "Capture Queen Lilicia and use her as a blood sacrifice. When the time comes, we will be able to open the 6th and 7th floors of the stone tower. These 2 floors hide great secrets. When the time comes, we will share these secrets." "That's good." Jin Daoyuan and the others nodded. However, these people, including Ali Khan, did not know that Lin Feng had already opened the 6th floor of the stone tower. However, Lin Feng was unable to open the 7th level of the stone pagoda. The biggest secret of the stone pagoda. It was also hidden on the 7th floor. Sand Clan. In the side hall, Lin Feng sat cross-legged, familiarizing himself with his new strength. The Immortal Emperor realm was indeed different from the God Emperor realm. There were 2 completely different levels of combat power, in addition to the crazy increase of his magical power. What made Lin Feng the happiest was the deep awakening of the Sovereign Emperor blood. After the deep awakening of the Sovereign Emperor blood, Lin Feng's Dantian condensed a blade of the Sovereign. This blade of the Sovereign was no small matter, because this blade of the Sovereign was condensed from an ancient killing weapon called the Blade of the Sovereign. Once the Blade of the Sovereign was activated, it could even communicate with the power of that ancient killing weapon. It was incomparably terrifying. Moreover, in the future, Lin Feng could also rely on the senses of the Blade of the Sovereign. Find this ancient killing weapon. If he could find the ancient killing weapon Blade of the Sovereign, that would be too heaven-defying. Lin Feng knew how dangerous the Doomsday Battle was. This was a battle that was almost unavoidable. If he wanted to survive this battle and even protect his loved ones, not only did he need to raise his cultivation, he also needed to find all kinds of top-grade treasures. Because these top-grade treasures all contained monstrous luck. After finding these top-grade treasures, these luck would also belong to Lin Feng. The stronger the luck, the more opportunities there were. The faster his strength increased, the more likely he would survive the Doomsday Battle. Other than that, these top-grade magic treasures were very powerful. Lin Feng was now able to do 18 things at once. In the future, he might be able to do 100 things at once. He might even be able to do more at once. So, the more top-grade magic treasures he collected, the more top-grade magic treasures he could use at once in the future. At that time, the battle power he could release would be even more powerful. This would all help Lin Feng survive the Doomsday Battle. There was one more point. Between all things, there was a mutual reinforcement and restraint, no matter how terrifying the danger was. In fact, there was a way to resist this kind of danger. collect enough top-grade magic treasures, be able to deal with more dangers. Perhaps, among the many top-grade magic treasures on him, there would always be a top-grade magic treasure that could solve the seemingly unsolvable danger in front of him. So, cultivators, while constantly raising their cultivation, they also had to constantly collect all kinds of top-grade treasures. The Sovereign Emperor blood of the Sovereign Emperor clan is the bloodline with the strongest attack power. How is the power of the blade of the Sovereign? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He felt that. The power of the blade of the Sovereign should be extremely terrifying. Of course, now is not the time to test the power of the blade of the Sovereign. The next day, Queen Lilicia came to Lin Feng's residence. She said indifferently, "Since you have already broken the seal, why don't you leave?" Lin Feng said, "I'm worried about my wife. If you dare to talk nonsense again, do you believe that I will break your bones?" Queen Lilicia immediately regained her queen-like demeanor. She looked at Lin Feng fiercely. This woman's temper was quite fiery. One word of disagreement, directly starting a fight. So Lin Feng changed his words before Queen Lilicia went berserk. "I mean, future wife, humph." Queen Lilicia snorted coldly. However, this time, she didn't refute Lin Feng again. She said, "Today the high priest came to find me and said that there will be a priest meeting tomorrow to discuss the matter of the sacrifice." The priests of the Sand Race were equivalent to the elders of the other forces, and the high priest, he was equivalent to the great elder. "Is there something wrong?" Lin Feng asked calmly. In the past, the matter of the sacrifice would only be discussed on the fast day, and now it is the fast day. There is still half a month's time. Queen Lilicia said. The fast day was a relatively special day. On this day, the clansmen would often bathe, change clothes, and eat vegetarian food for 3 days. Then they would worship the ancestors, and the fast day of each force was different. When exactly was it set? It was the day that the upper echelons of the force had decided after a discussion. After the fast day was set, this day would be used every year in the future. And now, the high priest proposed to discuss the sacrifice half a month before the fast day. Chapter 3730. Lin Feng said, "Could it be? Does the high priest plan to make a move tomorrow?" Queen Lilicia nodded. Lin Feng said, "This person is so bold, ambitious. He should be punished." Queen Lilicia said coldly. This woman, she was actually a decisive woman. However, Lin Feng felt, if the high priest chose to make a move, he would definitely be fully prepared before making a move. Lin Feng said, "Although I don't have much contact with the high priest, I feel that he is very sinister and cunning. Furthermore, he is very cautious. Since he wants to make a move, he will definitely be fully prepared." Queen Lilicia said, "I'm also clear about this. However, if the high priest wants to usurp power, how could it be so easy? It's still not too late for you to leave now. If you don't leave now, you will also be implicated tomorrow." TSK. Didn't I say earlier? At this time, how can I leave my future wife and leave alone? Lin Feng smacked his lips and said. Queen Lilicia gritted her teeth and said, "Your mouth is very annoying. If your mouth wasn't so annoying, your character would still be passable." Lin Feng said, "Look at how unprofessional your words are. What do you mean by having a bad mouth? I clearly said the truest thoughts in my heart." "Humph. If you dare to speak nonsense again, I'll beat you until your teeth fall out." Queen Lilicia waved her fist and couldn't help but snort softly. However, it was very difficult for Queen Lilicia to scare Lin Feng now. On the contrary, Lin Feng felt that the slightly angry Queen Lilicia had a different flavor. Of course, if a person was beautiful, no matter when, it was very pleasing to the eye, just like Queen Lilicia, no matter when or where. They were all so beautiful and moving. Adjust your state today. Tomorrow, there might be a fierce battle. Queen Lilicia said. "Good. You go back and prepare well." Lin Feng said. Queen Lilicia nodded. She still had many things to deal with. Therefore, he didn't stay long at Lin Feng's place. He quickly left. Lin Feng, on the other hand, was meditating in the stone hall. He hoped to adjust himself to his best condition. At night, it was eerily quiet. Outside the Sand Clan's ancestral land, some terrifying life forms could be seen passing by from time to time. They were terrifying creatures that lived in the endless ghost sand. Those terrifying creatures would not enter the Sand Clan's territory. Every night, they could all see the figures of those terrifying creatures. Lin Feng seemed to have sensed something. He opened his eyes and looked ahead. The stone hall was not lit. It was pitch black. In the darkness, a middle-aged cultivator stood there. The middle-aged cultivator had his hands behind his back. He was looking at her. Lin Feng suddenly felt his blood run cold. That existence. Who was it? He had arrived at the stone hall, but he hadn't even noticed it. This was too unbelievable. When Lin Feng stood up, only to discover that existence disappeared without a trace. What's going on? Why did it disappear? Lin Feng was puzzled. Just now, it was clearly standing there. Why? In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace? Could it be an illusion? Lin Feng couldn't help but ponder. He thought of a certain possibility. Of course, he also thought of another possibility. That figure. Perhaps it was the imprint of the stone hall? Exactly. Lin Feng couldn't tell. The night passed quickly. The next day, Lin Feng met up with Queen Lilicia. He followed Queen Lilicia. They went to attend the priest meeting together. Sand Clan. The meeting hall. 29 priests, including the high priest, had all arrived. These priests, 18 of them supported the high priest. Only 10 of them supported Queen Lilicia. Your Highness, this is the priest meeting of our Sand Clan. We're going to discuss the matter of offering sacrifices to our ancestors. What do you mean by bringing an outsider here? A priest who supported the high priest was the first to speak. That's right. Even if you are the queen, the ruler of the Sand Clan, you can't go against the rules of the Sand Clan time and time again, right? Your Highness, you are going overboard by ignoring the rules of the Sand Clan. You're looking down on us priests. Don't forget that we priests have the right to supervise your Highness. The priests who supported the high priest sneered. Although there is no precedent of bringing outsiders to the priest meeting, there is no rule of the Sand Clan. But there is no rule in the clan that says we can't bring outsiders to the priest conference. Although it wasn't written clearly, but everyone knows that it has already become an unwritten rule that we can't bring outsiders to participate in the priest conference. Even if it is not written in the rules, we should abide by it and not break a rule that has been followed for so many years. A priest who supported the high priest sneered. An unwritten rule that is not written in the rules is not a true rule. It's not a real rule. The priest who supported Queen Lilicia retorted. Both sides. They quarreled fiercely. The high priest suddenly spoke. Enough. Let's not argue about this matter anymore. The moment the high priest said that, the priests who supported the high priest immediately shut their mouths. The high priest looked at Queen Lilicia and said sinisterly, Your Highness, we have always been curious about the 6th floor of the sacred tower. What exactly is there in the 7th floor? According to the ancestors' words, the thing inside, it seems to be very beneficial to our clan. We hope that your Highness can open the 6th and 7th floor, the thing that the ancestor left behind. It can bring good fortune to our Sand Clan. Queen Lilicia said indifferently. Didn't the high priest say that we are discussing the sacrificial ceremony? Why are you talking about the sacred tower? The high priest said indifferently. Naturally, we have to talk about the sacrificial ceremony. However, before that, we can talk about other topics that we are more interested in. According to the ancestors' words, the item in the 6th layer of space is preserved by our clan for the descendants of another clan. The item in the 7th layer of space can only be opened when the clan is in danger of being exterminated, and that item can be brought out. Queen Lilicia said. The high priest sneered. If our clan continues to prosper, doesn't that mean that we will never be able to open it? Now that the 5 decay of heaven has appeared, Perhaps it won't be long before the World Extermination War arrives. Your Highness, please take out the thing in the Sacred Hall and let us see what it is. This way, even if the World Extermination War arrives, we will be prepared. The ancestors' rules cannot be violated. Queen Lilicious said, rules are dead, people are alive. The ancestors' rules are not necessarily correct. Your Highness Queen Lilicia, do you think that this old man's words are correct? At this moment, a voice came from outside. More than 10 cultivators. Chapter 37-31. The people who had entered the hall were none other than the myriad races. They were the helpers the high priestess had found. The one who had spoken was Jean Daoyuan. Jean Daoyuan, a peak expert of the Sage Hall. Among the myriad races, his status was extremely high. Who are you people? Queen Lilicia's face darkened slightly. At this moment, the high priestess smiled and said, Your Highness, these people are my friends. The high priestess has led so many people into our sand race. Did you not report to this queen? Queen Lilicia's voice was cold. The high priestess said, Your Highness is busy. Thus, such a small matter did not inform your Highness. Queen Lilicia said coldly, Then, why have these people come here? Don't tell me that they have gathered here just to visit the high priestess. The high priestess said indifferently, My friends also want to see what treasures are in the sacred tower. You betrayed the sand race. Queen Lilicia looked at the high priestess furiously. The high priestess waved her hand. In an instant, formation runes intertwined. The hall was sealed. High priestess, are you trying to rebel? The expressions of the high priestess who supported Queen Lilicia could not help but darken. Then she shouted coldly, Ha ha ha! How can you say that I'm rebelling? The weak are prey to the strong, and only the fittest survive. How can our sand race develop in the hands of such a woman? When can we walk out of the endless ghost sand? The glory of our sand race should illuminate the starry sky world. Everyone, if you submit to this seat will lead you to rebuild the sand race's glory. The high priestess laughed loudly. Now that things had developed to this point, the high priestess, clearly, she no longer had any scruples. She had completely fallen out with Queen Lilicia. Impudent! You bastard! How dare you betray Her Highness? You will die a horrible death. You bastard, you have let down the old patriarch's kindness in the past. You have wild ambitions. You deserve to die 1,000 times. The 10 high priestesses who supported Queen Lilicia could not help but curse with righteous indignation, especially when they thought of how the old patriarch had saved the high priestess's life several times. And now, the high priestess had betrayed Queen Lilicia. These priests were burning with rage. The high priest sneered. Cursing is something that weaklings do. High priest, it was too early for him to be proud. So what if you invited these experts? I can get in touch with the 2 pagoda elders now. Once the 2 pagoda elders attack, all of you will die, Queen Lilicia said coldly. Roar, roar. At this moment, an earth-shattering roar came from outside. Queen Lilicia tried to contact the 2 old men guarding the tower, but he failed. This caused Queen Lilicia's expression to become unsightly. The high priest sneered and said, I've long been on guard against those 2 old bastards. Therefore, I've reached an agreement with the 2 terrifying creatures in the endless ghost sand. They will help me deal with those 2 old bastards. The creatures in the endless ghost sand were abnormally terrifying. He wanted to cooperate with them. He would definitely have to pay a huge price. It was unknown what price the high priestess had paid to invite the 2 terrifying creatures from the endless ghost sand to help her. Of course, no one cared about this. The current situation, it was obviously extremely disadvantageous for Queen Lilicia's side. Brother Jean, before the death of the previous patriarch, he passed part of his power to Lilicia. So, this woman Lilicia is not to be underestimated. You and I will work together to suppress her. Don't kill her. We need to use her as a sacrifice to the Holy Tower and then open the 6th and 7th floors of the Holy Tower. The high priest said in a deep voice, Good. You and I will work together. It's enough to suppress her. Jean Daoyuan nodded and stepped out. The rest, kill without mercy. The high priest shouted in a deep voice. Then, he rushed towards Queen Lilicia and Jean Daoyuan. They also charged towards Queen Lilicia. The rest. They began to besiege the 10 priests who supported Queen Lilicia. Kid, your dog life. I'll take it. Ali Khan looked at Lin Feng with a sinister smile. He faced Lin Feng. It was simply monstrous killing intent. He had not continued to find trouble with Lin Feng before. It was because he was waiting for today. Now, he could finally kill Lin Feng. Ali Khan was unusually excited. Ali Khan held a war spear in his hand and pierced towards Lin Feng. He wanted to directly pierce through Lin Feng's chest. Then, he attacked Lin Feng. He was in midair. Swish! A light flashed in his hand. The black dragon sword flew out. It was held in Lin Feng's hand. Go to hell. Lin Feng held the black dragon sword and directly slashed towards Ali Khan. Lin Feng, who had broken through to the immortal emperor realm. His battle strength increased greatly. Amir Ali Khan. What was that? Powerful magic power surged into the black dragon sword. Inside the black dragon sword, waves of dragon roars could be heard. As Lin Feng's cultivation increased, the power of this supreme treasure, it also increased greatly. Clang! Accompanied by that sonorous sound, Lin Feng's black dragon sword directly slashed onto Ali Khan's war spear. A powerful force suddenly erupted. Ali Khan's perlicue split open. He couldn't hold the war spear in his hand at all. As a result, the war spear in his hand, it flew out of his hand. And Lin Feng's sword, it didn't slow down at all. It directly slashed towards Ali Khan. Ali Khan didn't expect this scene at all. He originally thought, with his cultivation base, he could not do anything. Against Lin Feng, he still wanted to kill Lin Feng. How to kill Lin Feng? Who would have thought Lin Feng would be so powerful and terrifying? It was shocking. No! Ali Khan cried out in horror. His shout was loud. It immediately attracted everyone's attention. Everyone couldn't help but look over. They saw Lin Feng slashed at Ali Khan with his sword. Little bastard, let's see if you dare. The high priest's eyes almost popped out as he threatened loudly. Lin Feng ignored the high priest. That sword of his, it brazenly slashed down. Puff! A tearing sound. It was suddenly heard. Ali Khan, the son of the high priest. He was directly split into two by Lin Feng. At this moment, the battle had just begun. Ali Khan was killed. It was truly shocking. It's you. You're Lin Feng, the human race's Lin Feng. Suddenly, a great emperor of the myriad races couldn't help but exclaim. He actually recognized Lin Feng's identity. What? He's Lin Feng? The great emperors of the myriad races couldn't help but be shocked. You're Lin Feng? Jean de Yuan's eyes suddenly darkened, and his killing intent surged. Because the son of the Sky Demon Emperor, he died at the hands of Lin Feng. This matter made the Qinwu people incomparably furious. They wanted to cut Lin Feng into 1,000 pieces, but they never had the chance. Now, Lin Feng actually appeared here. Don't kill this little bastard. Capture him alive. Jean Daoyuan shouted in a deep voice. Yes, Lord. Immediately, there were 5 or 6 Emperor-level experts. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.